Hello, hello. Hold on, let me test this. Bu- 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 Just make sure everything's working. Hello, hello. Okay, my audio is working. So once again, my headphones. It's probably gonna be like this for a while. It's like I can afford a new headset, but once again, my headphones are a bit weird. Part of it, I think, is the headphones. I think they're just old because I think they cut out a little bit. I think it's been better lately, but also I think part of it, it's like my Windows updated, and ever since then, I don't know. So a lot, like several, like a decade ago. I don't know, like 5 to 10 years ago, my audio jack, the way that Windows worked, it just was always finicky. Like it always come out and like it always acted like it was coming out and coming in. But then there was like update that kind of fixed it, so like it was just more consistent. Like it wouldn't just constantly ask me to like if I plug it in or replug it in or do all this stuff. But lately they like re-updated and they put it like back to the old system, and now it's just a pain in the ass again because it kind of just well, I think it's randomly unplugging, or and then I had to like manually like replug it in, which is super weird. Like you used to just do it automatically, so it took like 2 seconds to fix. But anyway, so once again, we are back with oh yeah, so about my stream schedule. So I'm still so school's going still going, and I'm still like adjusting to that, and I'm looking for a job. I have like an interview on Sunday, so the schedule is probably gonna change again once I if or once I get a job. But for now, I'm thinking I think I'm gonna update my schedule. Um, I'm probably just gonna keep it like Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and like maybe Mondays, like Fridays and maybe Mondays streaming. And I think ideally I need to push my streams earlier. It's probably gonna get less viewers, but I think when I do it in the afternoon, I just have a bunch of stuff I need to do, and like sometimes my family wants to eat dinner together and stuff, and it's just like more likely to conflict in certain areas, and also to think about like bedtime. Like if I do it really late, because like for one of my classes, I'd like basically it's because I have to commute from my home. I'd like drive, so for my class, I basically have to get up at 5 or 6. So just I think trying to stream during like the any day like outside Monday and the weekend is probably just not gonna go well. And I also need to think about like how much time I want to sink into streaming because it does take a while sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, should I be drawing or writing or editing my Hunter x Hunter video or something? I'm still not sure about that. But for now, but I would at least if I do decide to stop streaming, it depends on what we do. I would at least like to finish going over all the card art and stuff for each of the Edge of Eternity stuff. It's I don't plan on stopping streaming. It's mostly just thinking about like what's the ratio. Like, do I want to stream like once a week or like or like 4 days a week or 3 days a week or what? Because right now it's looking like 2 to 3 days is probably optimal. And even that, I want them to be long streams. And but sometimes they kind of bleed over into long streams is the problem. But we're just gonna have to wing it and see how it goes. So we're gonna look at the art and flavor text of the card art of the Eternity. This time we're going over the black cards. Um and I'm just gonna like pull up like I just have the Planeswalkers Guide and Legends of Arc article here just like for like lore reasons. Like if there's a character I don't remember the exact lore, I'm gonna try to find it. Um oh, also some important info. So last time Silas Jones was talking about somebody in the chat named Silas Jones was talking about like how I asked that like how do open paths like kind of work in the edge? Like do they just open into the gap void of space? And Silas Jones pointed out that like the edge of eternity the edge isn't like a normal plane, and I'm sure it says that somewhere, but I just had trouble finding it. But then I found so this is the closest thing I have to an official source. It's the Vorthos cast. I was listening to it because I Write Robots was on one of the episodes. I do listen to them like outside of whenever someone like I Write Robots is like on their shows, but I was like I just been on like a little hiatus because I've been listening to other stuff at the same time, so I just kind of alternate through. But Lorelai confirms that the Edge I don't think qualifies as a plane, or at least not like a plane like the traditional sense, which I suppose makes sense because they do like some weird shit that probably shouldn't be possible for a normal plane. Like for example, we know the Chaos Wall seems to be the Blind Eternity. Well, is the Chaos Wall? Well, the Chaos Wall seems like the Blind Eternities, at least to me. I might be misreading that because it could be we could argue about maybe the Quiet Wall and what's outside is the Blind Eternities, but it kind of seems like the Chaos Wall is the Blind Eternities, and we know that how their hyper like light speed travel works by just like, jumping into the Chaos Wall and then jumping back out, which is not something you just normally do when you're on like a normal plane. There's like a kind of like a medical physical barrier usually that's prevent you from doing that. So I don't know, but basically it's pretty interesting. Like the Edge isn't like a normal plane as we understand it, which makes sense. It's coding like around the multiverse, and it does raise questions. Like Jay seems to have some connection to the Edge ever since he I gotta stop doing it. I say a lot ever since he whatever he did during the Tarkir set seems like he got launched into the Edge potentially, but we haven't really seen Jason the Edge. So I don't. Who knows where he is right now? So here we have Aphrael the Stone Chosen. 3 generic, 2 black, legendary creature, human cleric. War, discard a card at random. Void. Whenever Aphrael attacks, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn, defending player loses half their life, rounded up. All things end, and I'd rather embrace the truth than live the fantasy of eternal night, of eternal light. So we do have like another Aphrael card. We have a blue black Aphrael. I find that like the typing very interesting because Aphrael's arc is about like leaving the Monoliths. It seems like, but there's a blue black Aphrael. This one's also cleric. I mean the flaw's best thing. I can prove it, but it seems like this is like still portraying Aphrael like he hasn't completely left the Monoliths, and we see we see that Halia and Aphrael takes like a bit to like fully completely leave their faith. Like they're still kind of like throughout the story they're still kind of like jumping back and forth for a little bit about should I leave my faith, should I stay with my faith, etc. And of course the flavor text is a reference to the like the this wow, I'm stumbling all over the words. The Monolith's goal of like bringing everything to like a single point in space by like creating a bunch of black holes, which will cause the universe to like collapse faster, and then everyone can be brought to the new eternity. So Inavita, so they want to enact a 0 point, and then they also have like Inavita. So so this quote is like basically Aphrael like in response to either the Sumist in general or specifically like someone like Alia, like the idea that I'd rather be a Monolith than with a Sumist. I've already talked about this art a lot, so I don't know how much I want to go into it. I've talked about this a lot in previous videos, but basically, it's like a very interesting like sphere of influence here, where this draw like this circle helps create like a target for you to look at Aphrael, but also it creates like a very interesting like sphere of influence. Like this is where the power influence is here. But it's very interesting how much like so we know there's like the Void Stone. I think it is. Is it the Void Stone? Right? Is that what Tezzeret calls it? We know. So we have the stone, and it's interesting that how much more the stone's like warping. Like Aphrael obviously has some gravity powers, right? And it's very interesting how much like the stone is warping though, like warping like possibility in space way more than over this. Like see here you can still make out rocks, and there's still like some rocks here, but like there's like some weird ass energy coming off of here that's like warping the space behind Aphrael way more than Aphrael's own power, which to me like visually displays like the stone is more powerful than Aphrael is, and also like potentially maybe even supplementing Aphrael's power here on this side. Also, of course, a lot of purple and black, just to let you know that it's a black creature. And very interesting. Obviously, going like gravity seems to be associated with black, mostly because black holes and the idea of like even gravity can warp and bend light, and we know light associated with tends to be associated with white mana, especially with, like the Sumist. So I don't have a ton to say because I feel like I said a bunch already, and plus I'm trying to. Maybe I don't want to talk too fast because I have a problem of talking way too fast because I have ADHD, so I start speeding up unless I'm consciously thinking about my talking speed. But I also want to maybe prevent the stream from being like 4 hours long. If it doesn't have to be. Like I'd rather 2 is probably as far as I'm gonna push it. I don't know. I don't want to have to end it early, but I'd like to do this in like an hour or 2 instead of like 4. A legendary creature, human cleric. I mean, human cleric is interesting, but clearly because he's tied to the Monolith and uses the magic is like the Monolith magic. So ward is card at random. This could represent, so this is specifically the Stone Chosen. So I guess the award here would be the specifically the stone. We know the stone can rewrite probability, so that way it makes it like harder to do things. So it's like you can kill Aphrael, but it's just way harder because we know the stone will rewrite probability. So if Aphrael even has like a 1% chance of being able to escape, there's a high likelihood he will. So I think this is represented by the ward, which is like it's really hard to pin Aphrael down, and you could also perceive it as like you have to burn through ideas to get Alpha, like it's not easy. Because if your library represents your mind, it's like the idea that you have to expend ideas. Um, or maybe it's just a mental attack or something. Whenever Aphrael attacks, if non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or spells was warped this turn, defending player loses half their life, rounded up. So so Void can represent multiple things depending on the context, but usually in this set, it's very obviously leaning towards the idea that Void is being tied to the Monoliths, and the idea of like the Monoliths want to go into the black holes or send people to the black holes so they can be sent to the next eternity, and the Monoliths are okay with dying. They're okay with like if it means they get sent to the next eternity. So here we have Aphrael, and you could represent this idea that because Aphrael his arc is learning that he wants to like kind of live and not just like sacrifice himself for like this faith. So you could see this as since Aphrael's sister jumps into the black hole, and that's kind of like what spurs Aphrael's arc. You could see this as Aphrael sees his sister die, i.e., a non-land permanent that leaves the battlefield, and then he fights harder because after seeing someone die or get sent into a black hole or something. Although, of course, Void's more like general than that because having a mechanic that only cares specifically about Aphrael's sister would be weird, and just not very helpful. But yeah, also interesting. I like it's so spiky back here, and here we can see some like power coming off, like just like the energy, but it's almost like it's kicking up Earth and like warping space. So it's very like emphasis on power. Also, one thing I love paying attention to in these card arts is like the sky, because depending on what color the card art is, usually they try to fit in like if it's like a black card, they usually try to fit in more purple or like just like black, and if it's like something like blue, they try to get in like a lot of blue. And you notice obviously like with ally colors, especially like with black, like if it's a black card, they may put in some blue, etc. Yeah. Also, Afro gets like microwaved like a lot during the story. I don't think people talk about that. Afro gets microwaved like 3 to 5 times. It doesn't look like a grilled chicken the next time we see him. Like bro's getting cooked. Arc enemies charm. Actually, this is I didn't really think about this. It's not that I don't know about the cycle. It's that there's like a charm cycle. It's like Archmage's charm or whatever. Charms in general, like generally the gimmick of charms is that there's like they have like multiple modes that you can pick, but there's like a specific like Archdruid's charm. It's like this cycle: Archdruid's charm, Archmage's charm. So I guess they're still working on that. But like obviously, if you don't know, in Magic, usually like charm is like the idea is that their gimmick is that usually you can pick like 1 of 3 options. It's kind of like their mechanical gimmick. Even here, arc. So how many arc charms do we have? So we actually only have 3, huh? When did the it's been a while. I guess they're going back and doing it. So so this is obviously like a monoist thing. You can tell by like the shape and the material they use. It's like their alluvial metal or whatever. I'm not 100. Hold on, I'm not 100% sure what this like is. It could be a ship. I could read it as a ship. You could read it as like a symbolic representation of like the black hole, because like this definitely reads like a monoist ship. This is actually a good reference to for my black hole point. But like this, like you could see like the way the ship curves, like you could totally see this being like a ship coming at you, basically. Like maybe the thrusters like or what's creating the light, and the ship's coming at you. Like there's like that smooth kind of like wing shape, or you can see it as a symbolic representation of the black hole, because we've seen the black hole represented more symbolically, but here's like a more literal representation. I mean, it's still pretty stylized, but here we have this. So you could read this as the center is like the black hole, and then this is the photon ring. In a normal black hole, this would be like the accretion disk probably, but it's the photon ring because super voids are singularities, but they are not black holes. So you could see this as like being the black hole, and this like the photon ring, like this, and that's what's creating the light. So this being like a symbolic like artifact or representation of the super void in Zothera, which would also explain like all the rocks kind of like circling around it. Like these rocks look like they're in orbit. Like it looks very intentional, because also like these rocks especially, like they're going like around whatever this thing is. Like they could easily just be within the light, but it seems like they're like being curved around, like they're almost being warped. So I think it's very intentional on the part of the artist to have these rocks like floating around here and not just like scattered haphazardly. Like there's a very specific shape happening here. Like this is circular, like this circle within a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle, and then you have this planet here for like contrast, which is also a giant sphere, but I think it's just like a planet there for a bit of contrast. In the background, a nice blue to contrast like the purple and black. There's not like a ton of black actually. It's mostly just like really, there is some, but it's mostly just like really dark purple and blue. There's like some black here in the center. I think especially for the super void argument is actually a really good argument. Where if you notice here, it's like a lot of purple and stuff, and then once you get here, it's like black. Like these are like actually black and like gray with like and you could then see like the slight insides, maybe the what these monoliths see as like their like the next eternity, like what comes after, like once you get sent into a black hole. Arc Enemy's Charm, 3 black, instant, choose one, exile target creature or planeswalker. Return one or two target creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. It gains lifelink until the end of turn. So if you want to read this as the black hole, this would make a lot of sense in a couple areas, because it's like exile, okay, black hole sucks things in, you can't get it back. Return to one target, where you return something from your graveyard to your hand. I think it's a little weird for a black hole, because the whole point of black holes is that you can't get them back. But if you read Sothera, the Super Void, 2 generic, 2 black, you can actually see that it actually does return creatures. If you read it, it says legendary enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, opponent chooses a creature they control and exiles it. At the beginning of your end step, if a player controls no creature, sacrifice Sothera, then put a creature card exile with it onto the battlefield under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters. So the +1/+1 counters and this feel like really weird, but if you read this as being a symbolic representation of the Sothera and Super Void, then it's a reference to Sothera the Super Void, where it can also put +1/+1 counters on things and bring things back from the dead. So, which of course, bringing things back from the dead in this case, I think represents the idea that from the monolith's perspective, being sent into a black hole isn't like you're not dead; you're sent to the next afterlife. So there's that. So you're just getting a new life, and you're more powerful than before. The life thing is new. I don't know. I guess I just need something interesting to do that's just not 2+1/+1 counters. I guess especially since if all it did was put counters, it'd be like, why isn't this a green card or something? Like I think you need a little something to spice it up to make it like justify putting it in black. So, but also like interesting orb. Somebody is coming home, so there might be a lot of noise of people walking through the door, and I'm sorry if you hear that. The game saw Prospector, creature, human artificer. When this token dies, create a land or token. The Cav had learned their lesson about mining too deep. Zern Miffles had not. Is Zern Miffles like a specific character? I'm not sure if we gotten Zern Miffles. I guess Zern Miffles is a specific character, because it doesn't sound like a faction. But Beamsaw Prospector. It's kind of hard to tell. This kind of looks a bit like Monolith, but doesn't look like quite. I mean, I assume it's a Monolith, but it looks like a little bit like the Monolith's like big and bulky, but also like kind of like smooth and like very like sloped. So but I'm gonna assume it's a Monolith. It kind of reads like a Monolith. What's the lantern token it makes? Because lantern tokens, I can't really tell, but like in arena, especially in arena, like each lantern token has a different card art depending on like the faction it's tied to. I don't know if this will work. Lantern token. I want to see what the lantern. I might have to look for this later. I think there is a way to search for tokens. I just forgot. I probably should have kept it open. Oh, wait. Okay, so set EOE. Okay, so here we have all the lantern tokens. So this is like the Palatinate. That's the Ilvoy, the Monoist, the Cav, the Eumidians. Although it's kind of, I can't really see what token this is supposed to make. I probably shows it in arena, but I don't feel like logging into arena right now. I'm assuming it's like a Monolith, just like a minor Monolith of some sort. But so the flavor here is like pretty, I think, straightforward. The Cav had learned a lesson about buying. So the idea is that Miffle's gonna mine too deep, but when he dies, he finds something, I suppose, or when they die, they find something. So like, this is basically this card is basically telling you want to kill this creature, and the story is also telling you like this creature is supposed to die, like in the story. So it's basically like trying to encourage you to play out like a specific like kind of narrative about what's happening. Where this person mined too deep, they found you or they found something they weren't supposed to, and you want to kill them for that, or they just die because of that. So like for example, this thing swings that, and then your opponent kills it, and then you get a lander token. Like the idea is that like they may have found some new resources, they may have found some new lands, but they died for whatever they found. Beamsaw Prospector, 1 generic, 1 black. Creature, human artificer. So artificer because using machines, I suppose. And also it creates lander tokens, so as it cares about artifacts. It's a 2-1. So here we actually see like kind of like something going on in the background. Like there's like a actually I think this is like just their arm. I think they're mining and something shooting at their arm. But I mean this is pretty simple art. They're just mining and shooting at the arm. The background's like less detailed, and it's actually like kind of more like it has kind of like a tint to it. I want to say it's like bluish gray. It looks kind of like foggy. And then they're mining it, and they're like they're like more like saturated. Like this is like less saturated because it looks kind of more gray blue-ish, but this is like more saturated, which is like which is also helped by the highlight of like the purple here. It's like highlight this person's face, especially like, to highlight their expression. Like look at the expression; they look so pretty. I love this art. And then obviously a lot of purple and black, and like a lot of the monoliths, a lot of like the monoliths alibio kind of like stacking. But unlike some of the other monoliths, it's not like as bulky as some of the monolith armor we see. It seems kind of like more like maybe rudimentary, if not just meant for agility. And it seems like this could be a jetpack, but it could also just be like an oxygen supply, especially since this looks like a helmet right here. They like you could put something on it, and then this could be an oxygen supply. And it's very interesting that we're looking up at this person because once again, often this is used to describe a person in a position of power, which could make sense as like a bit of like dramatic irony because we know this person's gonna get their comeuppance. But it could also be like the idea that they're using like this powerful tool. So, and that's like the position of power. I like how they're holding it steady with their hand. Like it's just so powerful. They gotta hold it steady with their other hand. Although it's hard to tell if this is a prosthetic or just like something that kind of goes over their arm like a gauntlet. It's cool either way, but it kind of reads like a prosthetic to me. But would it be a human? Would it be an artifact creature? I don't know. I don't know at what point you would consider something an artifact creature. Like, does having just a prosthetic leg make you an artifact creature? Probably not. But because like I don't think Duretti would qualify as an artifact creature, and he's in a wheelchair. Also we have like this mushroom over here. It's like purple. Again, we have like a lot of black and purple and gray to there's a deer in my yard again to convey the alignment, and I love like just the action. Like because this thing is a beam, it's kind of hard to tell that it's like supposed to be cutting or rotating, and you can tell the artist is definitely like compensating for that by like either unintentionally or intentionally by having like this debris fly up, so that way you know this thing's like rotating. Because if this was just a sword, like a laser sword, like a lightsaber, it'd just be like piercing the ground, and the thing would be kicking up. But it's very clear that this thing has some sort of kickback, like insert Chainsaw Man meme here. And but what I mean by that is because rotating has kickback, we're kicking stuff up into the air way more than like just a laser sword would. So it gives the impression that whatever this is, plasma, laser, whatever, it's rotating and has like a lot of force to it. And it's creating this kickback, and these waves also help like create a sense of like direction and which way it's spinning, like the way this is like flying up. So you can maybe interpret this as like spinning like this way, where like this stuff is getting hit. Okay. I mean, I never really thought about looking at Chainsaw very closely about how it kicks stuff up. Maybe it's just spinning this way. I'm just like don't know what I'm talking about, but. And here, the fact that this is like hitting, like, so obviously this is like flying like up, sort of, but it's very interesting to put like a bit like here because it's almost like a foreshadowing of danger, where it's like this could fly up if it's hitting their arm here, this could fly up and hit them in the face, etc., etc. So, who's to say? Blade of the Swarm. So this is an EU Midian, looks like. Very interesting looking EU Midian. We know EU Midians can have like a lot of forms, just by virtue of like they mess with their biology. But Blade of the Swarm, 3 generic, 1 black, creature, insect assassin. When this creature enters, choose 1. Put 2+1/+1 counters on this creature. Put exiled card with warp on the bottom of its owner's library. The Emedians sought the secret of wet walking and Drick's DNA. Though they fail, their attempts yield other gains. So okay, so this is a very interesting bit of flavor that because I pointed out how like this is like a very weird Emedian. Like if you look at all the Emedians, because there's always the question, like, if you see a weird looking Emedian, is it just that specific Emedian, or is it, or we also know there's Emedians in other systems that can look wildly different. So like, look at this Emedian. Like these Emedians, like they look way more insectoid. Like they're humanoid, but they look way more insectoid. That's a robot, so that doesn't count. They look way more insectoid. Like they have an insect head. This person here has more like clearly has those insect traits, but it's like more like humanoid, which makes sense if it's based on the Dricks, because the Dricks are way more like, I wouldn't say they're generic, but they're more generic humanoid. Like if you look at this, right? So a nice bit of flavor going on there, where it's like if you've seen a lot of Eumedians, you're like, that's a weird looking Eumedian, and then you're like, oh, so you're rewarded for paying attention to that kind of detail. And it looks like this thing can't weft walk, but it is doing some sort of like movement, agility, like speed thing. It has some sort of movement that other minions may not. When this creature enters, choose one. Put +1/+1/+1 counters on this creature. So it's an assassin. I don't really. I guess it just helps it kill better. I don't really know. I mean, green black. I guess need to have some counters. But puts our exile card with warp on the bottom of its owner's library. So it's pretty ambiguous as to what this ability, the ability granted here actually is from the weft walking and Drix DNA. It kind of seems like it maybe has the ability to interfere with weft walking, even if it can't weft walk. It's in itself. Seems to be a bit of the flavor, but I'm not 100% sure. But I do like how this is like it can mess with like warp, because it's kind of like an answer to warp, but it's not like so annoying that like you can't do anything, I suppose. And it makes sense in black because black is usually like destroy target creature. So I guess the idea is like, well, I can't like destroying things in warp that are exited by warp seems like it's probably like a rules break somehow. Also, just seems like a little unfair. So they're like, okay, we'll meet in the middle. We'll have it like basically put at the bottom of your library. So that's a pretty interesting like tool for black mechanically. As far as the art goes, I mean, I kind of already talked about it. It's like it's very weird looking for an E-Midian, but onto there, but it makes sense. A lot of green and purple. Surprisingly, amount of green for like a black line creature. Not that like I keep bringing up like the Magic the Gathering like color coding. It's not that like Magic the Gathering never breaks. It's just usually very on the nose. Like look at this like E-Midian. Like it's like purple because it's a black card. And so E-Midians clearly don't need to be just green. Like you could just have a purple E-Midian or something. But interesting that they went with like green, but they gave it purple highlights. Obviously we have emphasis on the speed here. And the way it's moving like ends up in this like kind of like spotlight. Like everywhere else like around here is kind of like dark because it's like the foreground. But it's clearly some sort of light coming from like the back of this cave or undergrowth or whatever. And this guy just happens to be positioned right in front of it. So that way you can see it. That way it helps bring your attention to like the center of the picture where this person is standing. And while this is like kind of more in dark in some ways, like there's clearly light coming from here. It's hitting this person, helping highlight them. Like the arm is like really bright in comparison to like a lot of the environment because of all the light hitting it. Also, they're emphasizing some sort of movement of some sort with the green and purple like lightning coming off of it. So that's intriguing. Also 3/1, like 3/1, it's an assassin. It's definitely meant to like be offensive, go in the attack. So they were saying you want to attack with this because it's got big power. Also can put counters on it to make it more dangerous. I guess you could interpret this as maybe like if you can put +1/+1 counters on stuff, maybe it doesn't get like a speed boost, but it does get like, I mean, it might be going faster. Maybe the idea is it has like a strength boost of some kind, which can allow it to run faster. But like it's like not really like a haste thing. It's more like you get a burst of power. Chorale of the Void. Chorale of the Void. 3 generic, 1 black. I think I've talked about this art a little bit, but try not to die. Try not to die trying. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature you control. When enchanted creature attacks, put target creature card from defending place graveyard onto the battlefield under control, tapped and attacking. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifices Aura unless a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or spells warp this turn. So, so this is a very interesting bit of art. I think I've talked about it before, where it's like clearly like there's like less of a main character here because we're just kind of really far away, so we can't see faces clearly, and the rest are covered up. And even this person, the main focus obviously, but it's kind of hard to see their face a little bit. So it's clearly some sort of ritual with the Super Void. I kind of get the impression that they're maybe tossing them into the Super Void, or they're coming out of the Super Void. One of the two, because the flavor here is that you can bring a creature back, but you have to keep feeding stuff to like to basically to sacrifice it. Because like I gotta think about what I'm gonna say. I gotta back up so it makes sense. So if we look at the art here, there's clearly something there in like the center, like their power is somehow related to the Super Void. And we know that in lore, the Monoliths have this thing. They hear like the chorus. So the black holes and Super Voids create like this sort of like song or chorus that the Monoliths can pick up on like on radios and receivers and stuff that they interpret as like religious hymns or text. So I think this is what this is referencing, the chorale of the void, like the idea of like this music or song. Maybe we should double check what chorale means. Yeah, so it's a music. It's a musical composition or part of one consisting of or resembling a harmonized version of a simple stately hymn tune. So a choir or choral society. So it's clearly like their idea is they're harmonizing because we know there's like some sort of song or hymn coming out of the black holes and super void. So the idea is that they're harmonizing with it basically to get something out of it. And here we see like all like this whirling power, but it's whirling from these hands to show like a connection, but also mimics like the whirl of the super void in certain ways, like the light, the photon, and the light, and all this stuff around it. And this person's like coming out, um, a lot of blues, but also a lot of purples and blacks because it's a black line card. And this person seems obviously has a strong connection. Not necessarily a strong connection. This person obviously has some sort of connection to the super void by virtue of the fact that they are not only centered within this artistic frame, but also the fact that their clothes are being dragged into it. So the idea that they're somehow connected. I can't really tell if this person's emerging out of the super void or if the idea is that they're going into the super void, because we do know the monoist, like Raphael's sister. I mean Raphael. I think Raphael might be her name, but Raphael's sister got tossed into the super void. So the way I interpret this with the mechanic is the idea that you can bring something out of the you're getting some sort of power from the super void, but you have to keep tossing. Theoretically, you have to keep tossing stuff into the super void. Although the only thing with void is that like it cares about things leaving the battlefield in general. But this card pairs really well, like flavor wise, for example, with Sothera Super Void, because this card also wants you to like stuff to leave the battlefield. So I think the flavor here is that like they're channeling the power, and then you can keep feeding stuff to like the Super Void to keep getting power or some sort of benefit. And you also have to remember that the monoists believe basically in some sort of like kind of like afterlife or like another existence once you get into the super void or the black hole. So the idea also might be here is like the person is like coming from the afterlife or how they perceive it. But or it could literally just be stalling their death, because we know people can become like trapped in like weird time shit, falling into the super void. So could that idea might be not it might be not be that they're being saved per se, but like they're being kind of like stalled in some way or they're stuck somewhere, listening to the choir. Who's to say? And I guess that these maybe this might be what's helping making music is not necessarily the voices, because it's hard to tell that everyone's singing per se, but it might be like the idea that like you're using like the gravity to make the hymns. And I still find like the hymn of the Faller interesting, because it's like it's kind of hard for me to read. Like, am I supposed to believe like there is something in the black holes and super voids, because it wouldn't be like impossible, especially when you have like Eldrazi and stuff running around and the Chaos Wall. But you could also take it. But we also know like certain celestial bodies can just like produce like radio waves or certain waves that can be picked up like a radio, like on a frequency. So it's a bit ambiguous. I think it's intentional. Magic just sometimes leaves stuff ambiguous so it has something to come back to later. Like, I don't necessarily want to have every single question I have answered in a single set. If it was like a block, maybe, but they're not doing those. So, and do I have anything else to say about the art? I mean, so in the same way this character is like connected to the super void by their stuff being like dragged into it, so they're physically literally connected by their clothing, and also like they're sitting in front of it. These also kind of have a connection to super void because they're the same, like they're similar colors, and also like the way this is like painted slash drawn, it kind of mimics like the edges of the super void, like circular. Comet crawler. Oh, this is a draft in a good one to have in draft. Comet crawler. 2 generic, 1 black. Creature insect horror. Lifelink. Whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, this creature gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. Found the strain of Croon in Icy Labyrinth. Well, what's left with them? Decrypt log 2.23. Horrors are always interesting because they overlap with nightmares a lot. I feel like you kind of get the vibe when something's a horror and when something's a nightmare sometimes. I think nightmares are more like dream related generally, and horrors are more just like to represent like a weird, like monstrous, scary amalgamation of shit. But so I mean, the art's pretty simple. So we have like this freaky purple ass bug. It's purple and black mostly. And once again, black tends to have a lot of insects, mostly just because I don't think insects philosophically necessarily usually fall under black. It's more like the idea that black is more likely to lean into the use of insects, or common phobias like insectophobia or arachnophobia. Like sometimes people see like well, for example, they'll see like all these rats in black and they'll be like, why, how are rats black, like philosophically, like how would you even be able to prove that? I think usually sometimes the idea isn't necessarily that the rats themselves are black aligned. It's more that there are certain colors that are more philosophically that are more like to use the imagery or rats themselves as like weapons. um So like when like for example white uses a lot of birds, sometimes that's just mechanics because white has a lot of flyers. But if like white has like a lot of doves, it's not because doves are necessarily white alliance, because doves represent like like a lot of things that white would probably stand for, like purity and like, you know, free, like purity and like order, peace, stuff like that. Um, so this thing is obviously very contrasted against the like the ice. They're on a comet. If you don't know, comets are made of rock and ice, so it's very contrasted against like the ice here. It's hard to tell. Like, I think it's going around this, but it could also be like partially stuck in this. But I think it's just going around it. So like this, like especially mostly like light blue, but also like some darker blue, like ice against this purple. This looks kind of like a Sumist helmet, like a Palatinate helmet of some sort, just because of the gold and white color scheme. It's a bit hard to tell. It looks something like this. A bit hard to tell though. So because the models have the Sumas have like a lot of different, like the Palatinate has like a lot of different models to their helmets. So especially the white and gold feels very specifically like Sumas, and it looks like they landed on this asteroid, and then they got their shit rocked by this thing. Um, it has lifelink. I guess the idea is that it's like draining the life of whatever it's attacking, because it is like a horror insect, and whenever it attacks, it can sacrifice a creature artifact and it gets +2/+0. So I guess the idea is that like when you swing, you can sacrifice a creature that ends up kind of like this guy, the comic, because they got eaten by the comic crawler, to give it a boost in power and make it more scary. Also, is my night shift off? Because I feel like this should be brighter, but maybe I don't want to turn my screen brightness up too high because it just burns my eyes at a certain point. But anyway, also very interesting. It has like these like it's like blood. It's like it just killed something, so maybe it's related to like the life, like a drained whatever life force was in this person. Also, does give like this feels like kind of like a reference within the mouth. It's just a very common like shape because it's like a mandible, but this feels like I could see this being like a predator reference of sorts, like just very vaguely like predator inspired. Like it's got that specific like mouth shape, but it could just be like general mandible thing. Um, but Magic does also have the references. Dark Endurance. Whoops. One generic, one black. Instant. This spell costs one generic less to cast if it targets a blocking creature. Target creature gets +2/+0, and gains indestructible until the end of turn. One last chance, make it count. So this kind of seems like it's one of those suicide missions, because we know the Monoliths, they seem to love their suicide missions, where it's like you basically like have like something that basically you have like a magic effect that like they crash into a ship at high speed and they their death is put off to later. But if that was all this was representing, I feel like you just die after you use it. Like you'd give something indestructible, and then like the trade off would be that it dies later. But it kind of just seems like it survives. So here we have this Palatinate and the mono is fighting, and it seems like there might be some sort of shield around here, which is like the defense. Very interesting, like a bit of coloring here, because you notice like as we get further away, it gets like more purple or just darker. But next to the ship, it's like really bright, like blue, like A3 blue. This is the focus, and the way the blue like kind of works around is it kind of matches like the a bit of like the outline of a ship. Like if you notice here, it's like purple and like almost like perfectly like goes here and around. So anyway, that the Dark Endurance, like it makes sense. There's a shield, like the idea that it's some sort of like unnatural, like super powerful unnatural protection. We have purple back here. And obviously the spell, once you use it defensively, you can use it offensively, like Dark Endurance. You swing in, you swing indestructible plus in +2, and you live. But once you use it defensively, because that's kind of like the story's trying to convey, is the idea that like they're surviving this attack. I already talked about the ships, I think, enough. Mostly, I noticed like a lot of the ships, like the Monoliths and the Sumas, have like a lot of orb shapes. I think in the case of the Monoliths represents sort of like the black hole, which is like an orb, because that's how gravity works. And then the Sumas represents like a sun, like a stylized sun or star, which would also be usually a sphere, because that's how gravity also works. So also a lot of purple and black, a lot of glowing purple. Like they want you to know that this is a black card. Also very bright white light here. Like once again, I guess the idea is that it's like they're really pushing it. And here we have like the white and gold, the Sumas. I'm gonna turn my fan on. It's kind of hot. Eco transmissions. Oh, my fucking audio jack, man. Now I gotta fucking check if all my shit's working. Actually, I guess it wouldn't be my mic, so I don't really care. Deco transmissions. 2 generic, 1 black. Sorcery. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. If a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn, instead you draw 2 cards and each opponent loses 2 life. You would kill the Faller, our Messiah, and call us the monsters. So interesting. In the story, we don't really they don't never really say that the Sumas are out to kill the follower. Just like that the Sumas goals run contradictory to the Monolith goals. The Sumas want to extend the lifespan of the universe as much as possible, and the Monoliths want to end it so they can go see their Faller. I'm not even sure if it's even possible to kill the Faller in the Monolith faith in that way, but the card so the flavor I think is very interesting because like it's decode transmission. So obviously you decode something, you draw 2 cards, but it costs you things, so you lose 2 life because it's in black. And it's the idea that black is willing to pay, is willing to do like sub. It's I probably should say people's names. Sub Metamania all the way. So black has this theme of like paying life or whatever, or paying some extra cost. Because like the idea that black has no objective morality. It's not that black's evil. It's just that black does not believe in objective morality. But I think people sometimes hear that and they just assume like if there's no objective morality, then like what's stopping you from murdering like people constantly? But that's not really how like people tend to work. You not having objective morality, because even if we throw all that aside generally about how people work, just because you have no objective morality, that doesn't mean like there's no upside to helping people or like making society better in certain ways. But so the idea here is that black is willing to do what like is willing to make it to do like has no objective morality. So it's like the ends justify the means basically. So if you have to sacrifice life or something to get what you want, then so be it. I think the flavor here seems to be that if you're decoding transmissions, you're rewarded if something is voided, because this person is probably dead because like there's a smoking hole in the chest. So I guess the idea is that if something dies or leaves or enters the warp, you can like you're rewarded for it. So if you kill something or something you control dies, it acts like a sacrifice where they're basically play the role of this guy, so you get the information for them. Or if they enter the warp, the idea is that like you can there's maybe some sort of transmission or something that you can use to intersect the ship and intercept the information. The card art again, wrinkly Monolith guy with some. So this person once again seems like a lot like less armored than some of the other Monolith stuff we've seen. But it's very clear that's because they're a spy and they're not necessarily running in and tanking like 15 shots. And here we have so this person's frame is more important because this person's helmet is on. So like yes, in universe is because they wear armor, but like out of universe sometimes things are used for like visual language. So the idea that this person's like kind of less important, they're like a background character to this whatever this person's doing. Also very interesting because like the background is kind of like white and gray with a lot of it because of the ship, but there's like this like weird glow behind this person, and that just helps them stand out a bit more, so you can see the action a bit more. And then you also have like the blue, and I think it's a Monolith ship. I think the idea is that they were researching like a Monolith ship and how to destroy it or the Faller or whatever it is. It's a very bright ass star outside. Like they're very close to a star or something. If it's a star, I don't. It could be Sothera's photon ring. To be fair, I suppose, because Sothera seems pretty bright. But it also kind of looks like a star. So who knows if this takes place in Sothera. Also, like kind of like the framing here, where like the Sumas we know have a strong connection to the light and the sun because they're trying to reignite stars to stall for the universe's time, so the universe can last a bit longer, has like all this light behind them. And then this person, who we know the Monoliths are all have a connection to darkness and black holes, as like once you pass this threshold, it's just completely like dark over here, almost like the light's being extinguished in a way. I think it's a bit all. I mean, black and purple because it's a black line spell. This is the person performing the action. I wonder if this means anything. Probably not, but it's cute. Obviously high tech like data slate or tablet. Depressurize, never a good thing. So there's a lot of pictures of Sumas getting their fucking and Palatinate getting their fucking shit rocked. I'm like, but I guess it's the conflict between the Monoliths and it's a big conflict in the set. Depressurize. One generic, one black. Instant. Target creature gets -3, -0 until the end of the turn. If that creature's power is 0 or less, destroy it. Sunstar Fate teaches of perfect void, of emptying oneself so that the light may fill the hollow. But in the void of death, its teachings bring little comfort. So that sounds like a bit kind of like some sort of enlightenment, I suppose. Like the idea of like letting go of certain attachments, almost a vibe. So it's kind of hard to tell what's going on here. There's like a lot of space and like stuff going around, but this kind of seems like maybe like the edge of the super void. It kind of seems like this like is the super void. This is like the edge of it. And here we have like the photon ring whirling around it, and I don't know what this would be, but it could also just be air being sucked out of like an airlock or something, like just really symbolic, like just a really like stylized air, being like depressurization. Like this like seems like a lot of pressure happening just by virtue of like the more stuff gets pressurized, the hotter it tends to, but also like it looks like more compressed. And then this seems like unpressurized because there's nothing, so it represents sort of vacuum, a black vacuum of some sort. I think the flavor here is like being depressurized. So being depressurized obviously isn't great if you're depressurized in space. But I guess the idea is that if they're strong enough, they can withstand it, or potentially they can be saved if you can get to them in time. So that's what I think. That's what I think this was probably represented flavor wise. This is obviously some sort of sumist, white and gold. This is like very more angular. Like it's almost like a I wouldn't say hieroglyphic, but it's like kind of like it's kind of like very very obviously two-dimensional. Like you would see this like painted on the wall or something, or in a painting, and we have this person's visor broken and all the air, and this looks like almost like their air leaving their lungs here. Gold, I mean silver. I don't got a ton about this. Tons to say. I also trying to avoid just lingering for no reason. If I think of something to say later about a piece of art, I'll just come back. Sometimes I think I just linger on for no reason. I'm afraid of missing something, but it kind of just is what it is. So if you notice anything, feel free to point it out, and I'll just come back to the art. Dubious delicacy. What the? I try hard to see what this on my screen. Dubious delicacy. Artifact food. Flash. When this artifact enters up to one target creature, gets -3, -3 until the end of the turn. Sacrifices artifact. You gain 3 life. Sacrifices artifact. Target opponent loses 3 life. It's an acquired taste. So this is a very cute like so I guess like the flash, like the idea is that it's dubious, so you don't really know where it comes from. Like someone just grabs some random shit, put it in front of you, and is like, "Do you want to eat it?" I don't know why it's -3, -3 until the end of turn. I like to think that the flavor here is that it's the smell. Like, it just smells so bad. Like someone walks into the room, you're like, "Are you sure we should be eating this?" And that kind of like lowers the power and toughness. You can sacrifice it and gain 3 life, but unlike other food, you can sacrifice it and lose 3 life. So you can eat it to gain life, or you can feed it to someone else, and it's like poisoned or something because it's dubious food. Not a lot to say about this art. It's kind of so very interesting because I can't really tell what this is. I don't know how much of this is my screen and the sun hitting my fucking eyes. Ow! Holy shit! Don't knock them off. I can't tell how much of this is my screen, but it's really hard to tell what this is like on this half, which could be intentional because the idea is that it's dubious, so you don't really know what it is. This looks like some sort of insect, maybe, but I hope it's not an Eumedion. But it's really hard to tell what it is, which is kind of the point. It's dubious. And the food is like the main centerpiece. I think it's like really highlighted. It's like kind of rendered and really highlighted. There's like a shine coming off of it, and then you obviously have like some of the other like food stuff here, or like whatever this is. I don't know. So it's like fucking shit. And there's not a lot going on in the background, so I don't have a ton to say about this. Black and purple color palette with like some gray, with a lot of gray, just so you know, it's a black card and there's something going on over here. So it's an acquired taste. I wonder if this is on Susur Secundi, because this looks like kind of like a monolith shelter, but it's kind of hard to tell. I guess it would make sense to make this a monolith card because monoliths tend to have like a lot of void as a mechanic. So I guess you want to sacrifice this thing. Answers you want to sacrifice it to have it leave the battlefield and you get something in return. Elegy Acolyte. I think I already talked about this card out before too. 2 generic, 2 black. Creature, human, cleric. So I mean, cleric makes sense because religious organization. Lifelink. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal common damage to a player, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So we already have like a bit of language, a bit of mechanical language going on here. Where this thing has lifelink, so it gains life whenever you hit it, whenever it manages to land a hit on an opponent, right? But when it attacks, you draw a card and lose a life. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to swing with this, lose a life, and then this thing would make contact, and you'd be up life. That's the ideal situation. So this thing is saying, I want to attack. You want to attack with me because if I can make contact with a creature or a person, I will compensate for the damage you just took. Boy, at the beginning of your end step, if a one-line permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, creating a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. I don't really know what that. I can't really tell you what that represents per se, other than the fact this person clearly has like some sort of maybe metal powers, or is using gravity to mess with metal. So maybe the idea is that they can just like create robots or constructs. The art like this kind of ends up acting as like sort of a spotlight, where it's shining down. It's like a beam of light, like kind of like this, just shining down on the character to bring attention to it. And it also highlights like all these bits of metal, so you can clearly see what's happening. A lot of purple and black. And the way the Outbound like wraps around the body is always interesting to me. Like it reminds me of like the Super Void and how gravity warps light, I suppose, and warps like so like kind of warps around the body in a way. The eyes glowing is always used to either represent like sometimes it represents like power, sometimes mystery. And once again, I talk about like height as used to represent power. So like this person is in a position of power, and the fact that we're kind of like looking up at them and they're channeling like this powerful magic and bringing like all this metal to them, so like to bulk themselves up and defend themselves, and maybe even give themselves some weapons. What's interesting is that what's around the whatever they're in seems to be made of a similar metal, if not the same metal. The way it's just smooth and like kind of wraps around. I don't know. It's just interesting. There's not a whole lot going on in the background. It's just the background's just kind of like more bluey, I think, and then there is obviously blue and silver on her, but like more purple and black, so she stands out a bit more against like the relatively different shade of background. Also, this I keep is that like a person? I think it's like a thing, not like a person, but it kind of like. Well, I mean, are these like guys in cloaks or some shit? I think these might be guys in cloaks. It's a little hard to tell because like, what is this anyway? Also very interesting how this is like coming into frame. Like this is being pulled like from outside frame into her domain of power, and this too. The sun is shining my light. The sun is shining my eyes. I'm trying to fucking see. Embrace Oblivion. So this kind of reminds me of like the sacrifice move. Raphael pulled in the story. Well, he was supposed to pull, which is like they use the stone to like basically like create like a black hole and then kill themselves and then somebody else. So that way they get pulled into the next eternity. Embrace Oblivion, black sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, destroy target creature or spacecraft. Join me in the next eternity. So yeah, I mean this is the same if not similar. This is the similar if not just the exact same concept, I think, of using like the gem or whatever to take someone with you with a black hole, so that way you can go to the next eternity. I'm not sure how much they can really expand on how they feel about like, so like if you are fighting like a Sumus knight or a Palatinate knight, and you use this, is the idea that you're going to, so the idea is that you definitely want to go to the next eternity, but are you bringing them with you? Like, will they also end up in the next eternity, or is it just like believers end up in the next eternity? That's my question. It kind of seems like theoretically, given how they think the black holes work, you're not working on the assumption that anyone who falls into a black hole would be dragged to the next eternity. I mean, we assume other people do, because like one of the characters in the story, she was talking about how they were talking about how she wanted to like basically go to the next eternity so she could like bring order and like and law. Like she wanted to like go there just like she like keep criminals in their place. So we have to assume that they believe that just anyone who falls into the black hole goes to the next eternity. No. So anyway, this could be like one of the vampires. There are vampires within the Edge. They're like a specific species, and they're very big. They do wear armor. They're just very big. This could also just be person armor, but I think it's one of the vampires, who were like one of the first to join the faith. And here we have like this whirling effect, where so this person is clearly like getting they're clearly being pulled apart, even though they have like they're in a moment of triumph because they have like this smile. They already took damage and now they're getting pulled apart. And I just love how like this is whirling around like this like a locus point of like power, black hole energy, where this person's getting ripped around and then it wraps around here, which helps bring emphasis, like helps draw your eyes here. Like where's all this stuff going? And it's like following, it's slowly like looping around here into this void. And there's obviously connection here where this person's bringing this down and like there's like a bright ass light, and it's something that resembles like a black hole or a super void here. Also some of these patterns like in the armor, it's probably just like dust, but it also like resembles like stars, like space, like the power of like darkness and space and black holes all like being channeled through this person. And this looks like some sort of poor like Palatinate soldier of some sort, because they have like the the light blade stuff. So, but and very interesting that once again this person's highlighted by the fact that like yes the edges are more orange, especially like here, like kind of like here. But right behind this person's head, it's like kind of like a more like weird green color, which helps bring attention up here. But again, a lot of like there's been like a lot of like circular like motifs, I suppose, and also like swirling motifs, just like to convey like the power of gravity. And turn my audio up. Hold on. Again, a lot of like it kind of seems like it's I can turn it up, but sorry if it blows out your eardrums. Whoops. We'll try turning the audio up. Someone has to turn it down, just turn it back down. But hello, 1, 2, 3. We'll come back and check that in a second. Um, kind of seemed like it was fine. We'll just leave it up. I'll just turn it down if I need to, but we'll just put it up like there. Yeah, better. Also interesting that the motion of so it's hard to tell how much of this like the like the weird hood, but it kind of seems like this is stylized in such a way that it looks like they're bringing their finger down, which we know they worship a figure called the Faller. So the idea that to activate this thing, they're dragging their figure downwards, so it's falling, is pretty interesting to me. Even if it's like just for us and like in universe, it might just be like, oh, it's the jacket and the fingers happens to like align in such like a perfect way that it looks like it's creating like a line of action. So that's pretty interesting. I do like how this person what they're being reduced to looks like space dust. Like it's not just normal dust, like weird purple space dust. Um, Entropic battle cruiser. I'm not sure if we heard about like some weird ships in the story. I don't remember this exact ship. Entropic battle cruiser. 3 generic, black. Artifact spacecraft station. Whenever an opponent discards a card, they lose 3 life. Flying death touch. Whenever the spacecraft attacks, each opponent discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. So I mean, it's quite the thing. This definitely reminds me a bit of like the arch enemy's charm a little bit, in terms of design, but it's very interesting that what do I even say about this? So there's a very like interesting bit of yellow here because we know yellow is complementary to purple, which is to say that yellow is on the opposite side of the color wheel. So they are sometimes used to like highlight and emphasize each other. So very interesting they went for yellow for the background here, even though it's like a black card. Um, Here we have like all these like miniature like black, they seem kind of like black holes or some sort of like tiny super voids being fired. At first, they kind of reminded me of eyes, but I think the idea is that here's that they're like super voids or black holes being launched at whatever is down here, which is probably which we're unfortunately like looking up at the ship, launching stuff down at it, and it has like this weird orb. And this almost looks like almost like an eye. I don't think it's literally supposed to be an eye, but it looks very ominous. Like if you saw this thing looking down at you, you'd be like, "Holy shit, that's a monster!" And the way like this thing arches around, which kind of reminds me a bit of Sothera. Like you could see this as a kind of like a symbolism for the super void, and then this for like its photon ring or something. Um, this is kind of like a rib cage. I don't know if it's really intentional. It's like he's like a lot of like smooth, like sloping shapes. I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting stuff going on here, but I don't really know how to describe because the ship is just like such a weird, what a weird design. Um, Whenever an opponent discards a card, they lose 3 life. So I guess like the idea is like it's like entropy. So it's like reducing something to nothing or like bringing it to a state where it's like being brought to a state of entropy. So the idea is that you're doing that by discarding cards. Like the person being slowed down by discarding cards. Or I guess entropy was like sometimes like hold on. It can be also be like a reduction to chaos. But we're just gonna double check the definition of that. Unavailability if okay, lack of order, particularly gradual so decline into disorder. So I guess in this case, the idea is like maybe the disorder is like the fact that it fucks with your head and causes you to discard cards. And it's using the gravity to create that disorder, but also the 310. It's really big. But. And then once again, just a lot of purple. Follower's Faithful. What a character. Follower's Faithful, 2 generic, black, creature, human wizard. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target creature. If that creature wasn't dealt damage this turn, its controller draws 2 cards. Death is a trick of the light. Snuff it out and discover immortality. Which kind of relates to how like the monos believe that their goal. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to, it's really hard for me to slow down. Just mentally, I have ADHD. It's just I have to really think about it. It's almost painful. So here we have the Follower's Faithful. 2 generic, 2 black. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 other target creature. If that creature wasn't dealt damage this turn, its controller draws 2 cards. Death is a trick of the light. Snuff it out and discover immortality. Plummet record 170.312. So Plummet record is something that's named within the Planeswalker's Guide. It's the name of the collected 2-volume holy text of monoism. The Seeker and the Well is the name of the book reportedly written by the immortal Faller himself. Unlike the Theorem Unending and Final, it is written in the first person. This book is the first volume of the Plummet record. So this is the part of the Plummet record. I don't really have like an idea of flavor-wise why your opponent draws 2 cards if you kill something, other than the fact that it's just a drawback. The idea is that if you kill something for free, they get you can't kill something for free. You either have to land damage on it, or they get cards. I guess maybe you can see as maybe they get information out of whatever you killed. I don't know, but the death is a trick of the light. Comment reminds me that the monoists they believe that basically getting sent to a black hole is like a way to escape death in a sense because they get sent to the next eternity. So they're trying to avoid like just death by getting sent to like a next eternity. And the trick of the light makes sense because they worship like super voids and black holes, which warp light. And we know that the Sumas seem to have like a strong connection to light with their goal of oh, hold on. I can probably just find it on the Planeswalker's Guide. They have like a specific name. They're Caesarians, that's what they are. The Monasteria is a congress of hundreds of elector monks who administer monoist doctrine and North Star civic direction from the Faith's capital at the lip of Susur, the photon color that rings Point Prime, the first and most holy supervoid of the monoist faith. The lip of Susur is what remains of the stars that birthed Point Prime. Susarians, the species that divined the first tenets of monoism, and found the faith emerged from the lip of Susur from the gravitationally torn carcass of that star. They are individually massive beings who lens light around themselves and are born with an inherent command over the trembling gravitational threads of the annular universe. And we know there are vampires because if we go to the set, we can look up, like, I think there's like a Susarian, I think, in the set. So here we have Susarian Voidborn. So and unlike some of the other Susarians, unlike some of the other monoist stuff, this is a vampire soldier, not a human soldier. So we know based on this these hints that the Susarians are like a species, and this person it's kind of tell how actually big they are because they're wearing like this armor. But Susarians are presumably very big compared to humans, and probably a little bit more purple or pale or something. But with this in mind, we know that the Susarians are vampires within the world of the Edge. And that's really all we know about them for the most part. I don't have a ton to say about them. All we know is that they were one of the founding species of the faith. And they are categorized as vampires within the set. But there's not a whole... So we can assume that basically like almost any vampire we see could be a Susarian. And they're not from Susur Sukundi. They're from... So Lightless Evangel seems also like a Susarian of some sort. Because once again, vampire cleric instead of a human. But we don't know a ton about them other than the fact that they're not from Susur Sukundi. They're from... So Susur Sukundi is named after a different planet that's somewhere else in some other system called Susur, which is around like Point Prime, which I think is like the first black hole that... the first black hole they created, or just the first black hole the origins sprang from. But It's in some other system connected to like this one to this other black hole, and they're like a species. And we know they're categorized as vampires in Magic the Gathering, but there's only two in like the set. So I can't tell you about a ton about them, other than the fact that they mostly just kind of exist and that they are kind of tied to the monoliths. And they're not categorized like humans, like they're vampires. Um, the sun is kicking my ass, bro. Failures, we already talked about that. As far as the art goes, once again, we're kind of like looking up at this person, which kind of to me gives like the vibe of like a position of power or authority over whatever this is, because this is framed much lower than this person on the table. And it looks like they're basically sucking this person's blood out. I don't know, but they're human wizard, not a vampire. And here we have some of the Albile armor, but it's clearly different. It's not like battle armor. It's like clearly like they're manipulating it as like prosthetics and stuff to interact with whatever this is, to dissect it and figure out how it works. Also, I guess what's interesting is that you could target your own creature with this, because if it draws you 2 cards, you could put this into the battlefield, target your own creature you know wasn't dealt damage, and then draw 2 cards off of it. Which I guess in that case that makes a little bit more flavor sense, because the idea is like the idea that you can kill your own stuff and then get information out of it. It's like dissect it. So once again, the background's kind of like way less detailed, and it's kind of like more. It's like a different like it's got like a tint over it that the main character here does not. I don't have a ton to say about this. Like look at all these like little prosthetics and kind of like insect arms. And I guess they're not prosthetics. I guess they'd just be like extra limbs. But and of course a lot of black and purple, because they want to let you know it's black aligned. It's hard for me to tell exactly what's going on here. It kind of looks like they're sucking out this thing's blood. I don't really know why. Probably research purposes, but also interesting as a wizard, not a cleric here. Fell grab ship, 2 generic, 1 black. Artifact spacecraft. When the spacecraft enters, mill 3 cards. Then return a creature or spacecraft card from your graveyard to your hand. Flying lifelink. Flavor wise, I mean, this seems like putting stuff in your graveyard, or killing it or whatever, or void seems to sometimes be related to just like gravity and the idea of things being sucked in somewhere. But this can kind of save it, because it's warping gravity, which you can see in the art here. Like it's bending something around it, like space or light or time or something, or not time, but like light or space. Although space time are related, but I'm not getting into that. I mean, again, I don't really have a ton to say here, because the mono ships are just so weird sometimes. Like I don't know what to say about this. It's black and purple. It's like glowy bits. I assume like this, once again, this looks remind me of like the way the light bends towards like black super voids, like Susur Secundi. And this kind of, they have like these rings around them. It looks like it's like moving like low to the ground. Like this looks like ground being kicked up, like the gravity warping or something, or maybe just like a bunch of asteroids and debris. But it's hard to tell. But it looks like it's like near the ground, and it's like flying really close to the ground, kicking all this stuff up because it's warping gravity. And these kind of remind me of hands, almost like it's like raising its hands up. Like it doesn't literally have hands, but it gives me that vibe of like it's outstretched. It's like it's taking up space. It's powerful. If you're like within this ring, you're like within you're within its direct domain of power. Like you're just fucked. Because like this like goes here, and then kind of you can't really see it past this point here. So you could just as a metaphorical representation of its like reach. And once again, all the spacecraft seem like that kind of like full art. So I guess the idea is that the spacecraft just give you like more freedom to move about the galaxy and the universe. So it's represented by having more space in the art. Yeah. Grab blade heavy. Um, 3 generic, 1 black. Creature, human, soldier. As long as you control. So this is one of the examples I would use to show that we know that the Susarians are different than just normal people, because this is a human, and the Susarians we were talking about earlier are like this guy is like a vampire. So we can. Obviously there's an option like this is just unrelated, and there's like I don't know, like, and what they're saying is this species is voidborn and it's just from Susur, but I get the impression that what it's saying is that it's a Susarian that is voidborn, and thus Susarians would be like a type of vampire. Uh but Grab Blade Heavy, as long as you control an artifact, this creature gets +1 and +0 and has Death Touch. It's difficult to dodge a weapon that commands gravity itself. So I guess in this case, Death Touch might not represent like some sort of like usually Death Touch is like usually Death Touch is represented by poison or just being extremely deadly. I guess in this case, it's more like the gravity will just fucking kill you if it hits you. I think the idea here is that if you have this person protecting, that this person basically fights better if they have an artifact like the for example like the Void Stone, which we know the monoliths want to keep alive or get their hands on. If you have an artifact to protect, the creature fights better and becomes more dangerous. Once again, we have more of those like little orbs. Like both the monoliths and Sumas love like the little orbs and shit, and I assume that's like representing both black holes and stars because they both take on like an orb shape. Um, so it's very interesting here because like here looks like an like some sort of outside blue sky, but like about like halfway I guess is like it's taken up by like the power of this person's like purple like the light and energy of like this person's purple grab blade, and it's very ominous like from this way here. So I don't know if the idea is like they're protecting some sort of opening because we know it seems like they want you to protect some sort of artifact or something. So maybe this is like some sort of opening that they're not letting you leave, they're not letting you enter. It's hard to say, and like this is like kind of your domain of influence, and their face is highlighted by the fact that like they're covered in purple, and it's like once again a lot of black and dark blue, so that you know it's a black card. Um, Very interesting how the skin's rendered quickly. It has spots on it of some sort, like blemishes, which I appreciate, and character designs and stuff. I don't have a ton to say. Like very bulky armor. Like, his armor is very big, and it's very funny how much of the picture they actually take up. Like I feel like normally they'd zoom out a little bit so you can see like more of the person, but it's like you basically only see like this person's like shoulders and like part of the torso, and, like a bit of their hand because they're just so fucking big inside their armor. Which maybe that's supposed to give like a sense of power, like the idea that they take up space. Like you're not gonna get past them unless they let you get past them. Grab kill. Grab kill. 3 generic, 1 black. Instant. Exile target creature or spacecraft. Sing. When the fellow reaches the end of his journey, all things will arrive at the 0 point. What is unending will persist through the new creation and be ordered accordingly. The theorem unending and final. Antiphon 6. I don't know if we ever hear about Antiphon. I don't remember hearing about that in the Planeswalker's Guide or anything of the sort. Yeah, I don't know what Antiphon is, but I just wanted to look their text. Um, so obviously the monoliths use a lot of gravity magic and black holes. So here we have what I assume is a member of the Palatine, because it looks like a stylized member of the Palatine, getting their fucking shit rocked by having a black hole like just pass through them, presumably. Because we do know they can launch black holes and stuff. Oh, it's very interesting stylization that you can see like their heart, like because theoretically it should have just eaten the heart, but there's a interesting bit of stylization here where you can see their heart, so you know they're dead. And the idea might be maybe from the perspective of the monolith that they live on in some way. It's like their heart's kind of been separated, like maybe because they got killed by a black hole, they got sent to the next eternity somehow. There are like stars back here, but it's just like very dark. So it's very interesting how they rendered space a bit here. Like this is clearly like a planet of some sort, and this is like a planet. Like these are planets or some sort of celestial body, and then you see some stars here, but it's rendered in a way that's almost like drawn like an old paper or something, as opposed to like a really good like perfect rendering of space. And I suppose in this case maybe the graph kill isn't being launched as so much as like this is like Susur Secundi, and then this person's being dragged in because they're literally whirling, being sucked into it, like whirled into it. So maybe the idea is like they're being killed or dragged to the next afterlife. Also very interesting. This is like the way this is drawn almost looks like a spike. Like this is almost like you could interpret this heart like basically being like a spike coming from this black hole. So a lot of interesting stuff going on here, where it's like you could interpret this like as very malicious, like in the fact that like oh they're basically being killed by this black hole in multiple ways. Like it passed through them, they're being sucked into it, their heart is basically being separated from their body, or you could see it as like maybe like they're different aspects of themselves are being separated as they get dragged to the next eternity. Exile target creature, a spacecraft. I mean, you got sucked into a black hole. You're not coming back from that. Um, and obviously everything's kind of like this kind of like brown color, like muddled color. But obviously they want to get your attention with the black hole in this person. So these objects are much brighter, like a lot of silver gold, like this reddish purple, and then like purple here and black and like stark white. Almost cutting the page in half. Um, obviously, I think this is like more symbolic in some ways because like if it was really Sutra Sakandi, I don't know why whatever would be so big if it's behind it, but I assume it's just like a lot of stylization is the idea. Also very interesting the way it cuts the frame. Like this is like a different color down here. Like this is like half a planet, and then once you get here, it's like a completely different color, and this is like turns like kind of purple. So it's almost like it's almost like two worlds almost. Or like this is like the real world, and this is like maybe the afterlife that the monoists imagine to be, um, if you get sucked into a black hole or the super void, I suppose, because they're not always the same thing. Grab pack monoist, two generic, one black, creature human scout. Flying. When this creature dies, create a tapped 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. Her food stores will run out before her field, leaving only her mech and grab pack to carry her remains to the next eternity. This is a very morbid card. It's like the idea that when this person dies, it'll just be the robot. So when he dies, you create a robot because the robot's the jetpack. And then I guess this confirms also that like the monos believe that as long as your body gets into a super void black hole, so you could die, I guess, without at least maybe not all of them, but at least some of them, I guess, it seems like they would believe that you could die, but as long as your body gets thrown in, you'll make it to the next eternity. A lot of purple, once again, just so you know, it's a black line card. This looks like a bit different from like normal Alabile armor we see, because Alabile armor seems more like sleek and like kind of like bent, warped around the person's body and like stacked on top of each other. So this looks more like traditional armor almost. Like this is like a hood, and this is like just like shoulder pads stacked on top of each other. And then we have the robot, like launch, like lifting this person up. These like weird axes, like these are clearly magical axes or something like they're not normal axes. They have like this trail behind them, and obviously like it's pretty simple because like okay, so everything else is kind of like feels like less saturated. Like even this looks like a bit like it's not like bright red, but this person's like clearly like bright like saturated colors. Like this is like way brighter purple, and their trails like draw attention to them. Like your eye will follow this, and there's no way you miss this person in the center because they have all these trails leading to them. It looks like there might be some sort of aurora borealis going on here, but it's hard to tell. It could just be like a space cloud, and they clearly seem like planet side because you have I don't know something here, and then you have like some sort of moon or something or other planet up there. So clearly like this is like the sky, and there's like a ground here, so it's like planet side of something. There's not a whole lot going on in the background to be honest, so there's not a ton to talk about, but I mean, I'm kind of curious as to what they're doing that will even. I guess they might just be stuck, but because it kind of seems like they're just gonna fly and then die, and then the robot takes over. Hull cover. Also, of course, because it's a black card, they want you to like basically kill it. It's like the idea is that usually when you're playing Colors of Magic, they want you to put you in the shoes of the philosophy, and they reward you for playing like to playing a certain way, to, like in order to like get you in the shoes of the philosophy. So like with black, if you want to play black optimally, you usually have to be willing to sacrifice stuff, and the idea is like you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Hall Carver, one black, artifact creature, robot assassin. The monos actually kind of have like a lot of robots, to be honest. Not that the Sumas don't. I just noticed the monos seem to have like a lot of robot assassins. Hall Carver. I cannot say it. I don't know what's wrong with my voice. Hall Carver. One black, artifact creature, robot assassin, death touch. Sunstart thinking is too linear. While they fight head on, we hit them everywhere else. Aphriel Stone Chosen. So once we have like this differentiation, the philosophy is like the idea that like black believes in getting the job done any means that's necessary for the most part, as long as you get to what you need or want in the end. So here we have like the idea that like the stunts are a little bit more like quote unquote honorable, And when I say honorable, I don't mean they're the good guys per se. It's just that they have like a stricter like morality. Like one of White's weaknesses as a color philosophy is the idea that it can have like an overly rigid black and white morality in some areas. Um, but here we see like kind of like, once again like a conflict where it's like the sun stars have like a more like the ends do not justify the means kind of thing, but the monoliths lean a little bit more toward like whatever gets the job done. That's just because it's an assassin. It's a 1/1. It's not very big, but it is deadly. Um, Not too much to say. It looks like it's made of some sort of albio metal. And it has like these saws, these glowing purple saws that are some sort of like gravity or plasma thing. And this eye kind of acts as a way to tell you where it's looking, even though it's a robot. It doesn't have a face, but this eye looks very menacing and also tells you where it's looking. And also like this thing on its face looks like both like a combination of an eye, but also a bit of a skull. Um, so here we have what I assume is the super void from far away. Sometimes it's depicted as like a bit more blue or purple, but it's like radiating this energy, which helps highlight the robot because this light hits it and helps like helps highlight it for the eye, so you can see it better. And the other side, so its right side is highlighted by like this blue like light, and the left side by like the purple of like its saw or whatever it's sawing through like the what I assume is a Palatinate ship. Um, I mean, not much to go through. I mean, obviously, there's not gonna be a lot of people in the art because they're in the middle of the vacuum space, so they'd all have to be suited up or something. But yeah, Hyperblade. So I think Hyperblade is actually supposed to be like a counterpart to. It's not a cycle because it doesn't go through every color, but I think it's supposed to be like a counterpart to Squire's Light Blade. With Squire's Light Blade, you cast it, it comes in, and it attaches to something. And here, I guess you can cast it, and then when something leaves, so this cares about something like this wants to enter, and then when something leaves, this will attach to something. But anyway, it's Hilderblade, not Hyperblade. Hilderblade. Hilderblade. 1 black. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. Void. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, attach this equipment to a target creature you control. Equip 4. I mean, what is Lightblade? Hold on. Equip 3. Maybe. I don't know. They're both like 1 mana blades that that can equip themselves under certain circumstances. But I guess this one gives you first strike, but equip creature gets +3/+1 at the beginning of your end step if not equip 4. So once again we're kind of positioned where it's like the way this position it implies that we're looking up at this thing, so it kind of creates like a sense of like awe of like this powerful, like potentially powerful blade. I don't really know what it's made of. It kind of looks like it could be made of whatever like the VAR thing we saw was. I think it appears in negotiations or something. Like disrupt. No, disrupt. Temporal intervention. It kind of looks like it could be made of whatever this VAR person thing is. I'm not really sure if that's we can't even be 100% sure if that is a VAR, but it seems likely. But it also could be something else. It could just be a crystal. But clearly, we have some sort of thing that like is like resembles like the gravity magic or technology that the monoliths love to use so much. And in order to like emphasize it a bit, they have this ways these like energy weaving around it, wrapping around it, so that way you can see the so that way it helps draw your attention a bit better. I don't know what to say. Like this is clearly like more of like green, but purple. It looks almost like rusted copper in a way, but I don't think that's what it is. But in the background's like a much like darker blue. Well, I'm trying to think of the flavor of why it would attach to you whenever Void activates. I don't know. Maybe the idea is that you just feed it something because it could be tied to gravity in some way. Who knows? Hymn of the Faller. 1 generic, 1 black. Surveil 1. When you draw a card and lose 1... Surveil 1. Then you draw a card and lose 1 life. Void. If an non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell is warped this turn, draw another card. Does truth lie in the void between stanzas? So, once again, we have a reference to the Hymn of the Faller, which is theoretically the hymn they're listening to or they pick up on the radios and stuff, when they tune into like a black hole, like it's producing like some sort of frequency that can be interpreted as like a message or some sort of radio. Once again, the actual nature of that is kind of up in the air, but I mean, it's Magic the Gathering, so weird shit happens all the time. It could literally just be, it could be on the money. They could be half right. There could be something in the black hole, but it's not what they think. It could be completely wrong. Who knows? So surveil and draw a card. I guess the idea is just simply that you're getting information by listening to the hymn. I don't really know why you lose one life other than the fact that it's a black card and it needs a drawback if you're gonna draw a card. Um, and obviously void because if thing leaves the battlefield, for example, gets cast into the super void. You can listen to the hymn. Um, and this character is interesting because they're asking like, does truth lie in the void between stanzas? So I guess the idea is that like they're they're looking like between the lines almost like the hymn will say something and then there'll be a pause or whatever and then they'll say something else. So it's like the idea is like, is there some sort of secret message? Is there like some part of it I can listen to? Um, the art's very interesting because we have like this cloak figure reaching out, and these orbs could be like Alabama metal or something, but also like it could be like a representative of like the various black holes or planets or something, bodies are being listened to, and this also looks almost like wind, which I guess could be kind of like how sometimes sound is interpreted. Like it almost reminds me of almost like sheet music in a way. Not that it has like notes, but that sheet music has like these lines, kind of that stuff goes in, and that would kind of make sense. Like the idea that if you're listening for like lines and stanzas, that it might be represented in that way. Like you're listening for like a musical hymn, like this. So it seems almost like a stylized version of like maybe like these lines here. Um, so which would make sense to me at least if like you're listening for hymns or something, like listening for like the lines, and then this person's trying to read between the lines, so you represent that literally by having these lines for them to read between. Um, they're very interesting. Like this might be like a stylized shot. Like it's clearly heavily stylized, but like there's like a bright light coming from here. But the moment it hits this person, it looks like this really stark darkness behind them. I don't know if the idea is that since they're monoists, they care a lot about the black hole, so there's a connection to darkness there, or if that the idea is that the light's hitting them and it's just creating a shadow and just super super stylized. And clearly this is somehow paint. This is like some sort of painting style. Um, and we have this person reaching out towards the stanzas, towards these lines and orbs. So they're clearly reaching out for some sort of information. Like it's like a representation that they are literally reaching out for, or grasping at for something. And that thing is whatever the truth is between the void between the stanzas or the stanzas themselves. I also once again a lot of black and purple. Also, this is pushing it more towards pink a little bit in some areas, but black and purple and blue because to let you know it's a black card. And even here, actually, I was just talking about how like the music notes line. Even here, there's like a line. There's literally like these like lines behind them, which could just be like the metal because we know sometimes the metal in the backgrounds of some of this mono art seems like fold in a way that looks like lines. But you could also interpret this as like almost like there's like super super straight. You could write. You could see this as also trying to read between the lines of some sort. Um, Insatiable Skittermaw. I think I've already talked about some, but I mean, there's not a ton to go over the card art. It's like a scary bug thing. Black loves its bug creatures. The lighting behind it is set up in a way so that like it shines like so it helps highlight this creature's like silhouette. So like it gets dark as you go out here, like but as you go towards like the center, it's really bright, which is where this creature is sitting. So you go like holy shit, and then this thing's lit up by the light. Um, Two generic, one black. Creature, insect, horror, menace, because it's very scary. At the beginning of your instep, if an online permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell is warped this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Red's gone, and the chittering, it won't stop. So clearly this creature is very scary, and I assume the void flavor here is the idea that if something leaves the battlefield, it becomes more scary. The enemy either feels more alone or it's making stuff disappear, so it gets more powerful, or at least seems more powerful, etc., etc. Um, Again, a lot of purple, a lot of black. Who cares about black alignment? Lightless Evangel. So this is one of the vampires I was talking about. So vampires are clearly like a race on the edge that's separate from human. Although this one has like a void in the chest. I don't know if all Susarians or vampires or whatever they are. I assume I personally would have to read them as Susarians are the vampires. I don't know if all Susarians have a void in their chest. But they all seem to have power over gravity. Lightless Evangel, one generic, one black. Creature, vampire, cleric. Whenever you sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. You have been given great purpose. Your matter will feed the singularity. So here we have like this person getting sucked in, and I guess the +1/+1 kind of the idea might be that when something is sacrificed, it's being pulled into this person's black hole and giving them power. They are vampires, so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't if they are vampires, so it wouldn't surprise me if they feed on like something, like because I think it is mentioned like they mentioned the Caesareans like in contrast like the angels. So I don't know if they feed on light or they just feed on matter in general using gravity. I don't really know. Um, Once again, I talk about height and stuff. So this person's framed like slightly like we're kind of like above us in terms of eye line because we see the bottom of their hand and like the bottom of this, and their face their chin is pointed up, and but they're more importantly they're above this person, so they're exerting control and power over this person who is now below them and getting sucked into this black hole. They're being like stretched and warped, like spaghettified. Spaghettification, I think is the term, into this black hole. Um, which is emphasized by the fact that so even though this has a black hole, so the idea is clearly it's relating to like they're trying to draw a connection to like they're casting magic and it's connected to this, but even though this is like also black hole, also very bright and lighting up their hand, this black hole is more important like visually just because of the fact that you see all these lines like leading to it, like this person's being stretched towards it, all these lines leading towards it, like this it wants you to go like this is very important. You want to pay attention to this, and also the person's connected to. And this is just mainly just to show that there is a connection between this and what this person is doing, casting their magic. It's very interesting that where they're standing, there's like these like so like there's like these two walls on either side, but where they're standing is exactly like the two walls like don't touch. So it's almost like a little window to help like draw attention, I guess, like a little break. So you say to draw attention to their face. And I don't have a ton to say other than that, like black. So this is white and gold because it's a Palatine member, and black because it's a black card and a monoist. And the Caesareans seem like kind of like weird, have like weird purple pale skin tones. I think it's kind of hard to tell. It's really hard to tell in this art because I don't really know what the fuck is happening here. But it seems like Caesareans don't just have like normal human colors. Like they might have like purple skin, paler skin. It's hard to tell how much of this is like literally supposed to be purple or if it's just the idea that's just super pale. I think it's probably like a little bit of purple. Monolith Circuit Feeder. 4 generic, 2 black. Artifact creature Nautilus. Flying. When this creature enters, until the end of turn, target creature you control gets +X/+0, and target creature an opponent controls -0/-X, where X is the number of target artifacts you control. It does to ships what Monolith's Faith does to stars. So what Monolith's Faith does to stars is it causes them to collapse into either super voids and then presumably black holes. Well, not presumably, we know it's black holes. So I guess the idea is that this thing is warping gravity to cause ships to collapse in on themselves. Oh, gotta stretch. Because we know the Monolith has some devastating gravity technology and magic. I'm probably gonna say, so here we have like this shell, but clearly like mechanical in nature. Like this is like could be interpreted as a sort of eye, and this is clearly some sort of mechanical shell because it's an artifact creature, it's a robot, and we have like these tentacles. But if you look closely, the tentacles they're not just like normal like squid tentacles. They do have like suction cups, but they are clearly robotic because they have like little bendy parts so they can actually bend properly. They're sitting on this, so it seems like this is not the only. I don't know if these are also circuit feeders. It seems kind of like they are, but the background is kind of interesting because the way it's kind of like swirling in a little way. It's like a galaxy. It might just be like cosmic dust, like because this sideways thing looks more like what we'd see from our perspective in the Milky Way galaxy. But this kind of highlights the character in a way. Where like it happens to all be compressed around like this area where this person's sitting and taking up so much space with all these like little other things within it. And so it's like it was kind of like framing this as like this is the most important part of the picture and everything else outside is kind of less important. All those weird tentacles out there. The necklace vampires. Yeah. they might, it's hard to tell because we only see them in their armor. All we know is if they're very big. Who's to say they're necklace? They looked necklace though. I would not be surprised if they didn't really have a neck, but because like some of the monoliths just look necklace in their giant ass fucking armor, but at the same time, I mean, could be necklace. Um, so obviously a lot of purple here. So silver because it's an artifact, and then purple because they want to let you know it's black aligned. And very interestingly, went with like green, yellow to help this stand out a bit more. Um, and it's sitting on some sort of asteroid or something, like waiting to jump a ship. And I guess the idea that it gives something +6/+0 is the idea that it's like using gravity to help something or boost something. I think it'd be very funny. I hope they're necklace. I just think that'd be very funny if they were like they took off the armor. You're like, oh, take off your armor, and it's like they don't have a neck, and they did like Batman turn everywhere, like the fucking old Batman suit. They couldn't turn the neck. Mono is Sentry, Black, Artifact Creature, Robot, Defender. Monos fight a war of attrition, knowing their victory is inevitable so long as they stay true to their faith. 4-1. Despite the fact this is a 4-1, it's telling you you want to defend with this because it has Defender, and the flavor text is talking about a battle of attrition, which is like a more long drawn out battle. Um, Here we have some Palatate ships that got fucked, and once again a little bit more silvery to show that's an artifact, but also like a bit of purple and like a little bit of black shading, so you understand it's a black aligned creature of some sort. Um, and we have clouds for contrast. Like this has like it's not like super purple, but there's like a bit of purple which helps like bring a little bit of contrast, like the more yellowy clouds. Is this like on a Adagia maybe? Because this looks like the Adagia. Like if you hold on, Adagia is like one of the planets in the solar system, and it's connected to white mana mostly, and so where the Palisade has like a stronghold in the system. And if you look at Adagia, it has like these like weird like here's like a picture of Adagia. Like it has like these weird like things floating above it. Like I think they're mirrors. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, here we go, Adagia. So like that art looks like it could be on Adagia because Adagia has like these weird like mirror sun panel things, which resembles like this in the background, but just like more focused and more stylized in the other art. Um, obviously this thing is in a position of power because it's on top of this record. It's not like under it. It's on top of it. It's the king of the hill basically. Um, and you have fire, so everyone's dead except for this monolith thing. I guess the idea is that it's like standing ground, I suppose, but you could interpret this as this going in for a kill, but you could also interpret it as it standing its ground on top of, like these interlopers who fucked around and found out. Perigi Beckoner. Is Perigi like a word, or is that just like a magic shit? A point in the orbit of a moon or satellite at which it is nearest to Earth. Huh. Uh, Perigi Beckoner. 4 generic, 1 black. Creature horror. When this creature enters until end of turn, other target creature you control gets +2 and +0. Again, when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Warp 1 black. So the idea obviously is that you can warp it in and you can give something the ability to come back from the death the first time. I guess in this case the Perigi terminology might represent the idea that it's like close to something. It's like close to life or death, or like to superboard or something, which allows it to bring other stuff back. I guess it's also called the Perigi Becker because you could interpret it. Perigi means like a point in orbit in which a moon or satellite is at its nearest to Earth, and you could interpret it. The idea is that when something's at a certain point at its closest in orbit, this thing tries to beckon it. It doesn't really look like. So I know there's like some horrors in this set. I mean, there's horrors like in a lot of Magic sets, but I guess the idea is horrors kind of represent like the scary alien trope in this set. This doesn't really look like Monoist or Palatinate aligned in any way, and I don't know what this person is aligned with. They could be Palatinate because there's like a little bit of yellow, but it doesn't really look like Palatinate armor because Palatinate armor tends to be like way brighter. So I assume the idea is that this person like got really close to the planet, and then this thing beckoned them somehow. It's hard to tell because there's no flavor text. I mean, big black this thing is like really weird because like the way it walks, like it doesn't look like it'd walk upright. It looks like it's like jutting out, like it's like a crab body with like legs, and then this thing is jutting out where it's just kind of jutting out, but it's like torso is like way smaller than like its back legs. It's I think it's very interesting that this thing has like spikes like that go out here. Then the spikes kind of like mirror like the spikes of like this planet. Like I don't know if the idea is that it can camouflage amongst the planet. because they resemble each other in certain ways, or the idea is that it just shows like kind of like power, like a metaphorical like bit of power, like it's all jutting out, like this is sort of its domain. Of course, a lot of purple and black because purple back here than black like more like here because they want to it's black card. This is very interesting in how it's highlighted here. Like this bright ass light is like hitting this thing, which is almost like a horror movie of sorts. Like it's like you turn around the corner, you see this thing being lit up by this thing, and this person's like dead. So this helps like draw attention to the scene down here that's happening here, like its face, its horrifying face, this person, the box, etc., etc. I mean, just a weird creature. Like it's kind of crab-like, but not really because it's a horror and it's kind of like the shit. The exoskeleton reminds me of like a bug, but it's like clearly not a bug. Like these are big like T-Rex feet or something. I don't know. But the way like it's kind of shaped, it's like I can imagine this like folding up, maybe like to hide. Like this opens up to scare people. But I can imagine like this folding in, like it can like curl up and it's like kind of like a ball to like hide in this like spiky terrain because it looks like rocks. Very good, nice contrast because this is black and this is like more like turquoise-y-ish or just black, maybe more cyan. Um, there's also some sort of like ominous glow happening within its flesh, so it's clearly crushing something. Like this person was clearly after something, but it's crushed this, so who knows? Requiem Monolith, the new stand, Golden Experience Requiem. Requiem Monolith, 2 generic, 1 black. Artifact. Until the end of turn, target creature gains. Whenever this creature is dealt damage, you may draw that many cards and lose that much life. That creature's controller may have this artifact deal 1 damage to it. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is pretty interesting, the fact that this guarantees you'll draw 1 card basically if you want to, but also by dealing damage to it, but also that you might, if you're playing some other card like red or just find a way to like swing into an opponent, you could draw like a lot more cards, which is interesting. Here we have I think this is the Super Void, because it's shaped like a Super Void and we have something sucked into it. It's hard for me to tell what the Requiem Monolith really does. I think it probably gives some sort of information or enlightenment or something, because card draws usually supposed to represent the idea of gaining knowledge or something, but I don't really know what it does. But it's clearly like some sort of locus of power or information or something, because you also have like these rocks that are orbiting around it. Because you have the Super Void here dragging stuff into it, so I think this is on Susur Secundii, and then we have like this stuff like rotating around, almost like this thing is like has its own center of gravity to make its own little asteroid belt. And then these people are clearly walking into it, and which is differentiated from the rest of like the very like more darker purple for the most part, with like this bright orange/red. But I couldn't tell you a lot about it because I don't know what it does. I don't know what it does. I assume you walk into it, you get visions or something, or actually what it also could be is it's Requiem Monolith, and what a Requiem is it's like, isn't it like a music you make like after you die or for after you die or something? Especially in Roma, a mass of the repose of souls of the dead. A music composition setting parts of a Requiem mass or similar character. An active token of remembrance. Isn't like Requiem also like related to music somehow? Or maybe just a mass. So I guess maybe the idea is mourning some sort. A musical service or composition honor of the dead. So I guess the idea is that because we know the immortal the like there's like some sort of they're picking up some sort of signal coming out of super voids and black holes. The idea is that people who are dead or sent into the super void, you can perform this requiem for them, and then thus like maybe hear their last messages from the black hole, because we know black holes like warp time and space. So their messages might not always get to you, which could maybe represent the idea of that you are getting information from like the dead, or the idea that you are hurting, that it might hurt you, but you can get information from like the dead. And the pain might maybe comes from gravity or something. Who knows? Scrounge for eternity. So this is fun because it could have a double meaning. Scrounge for eternity could be that you're scrounging around looking for stuff for forever, or it could be that they're looking for the eternity, because we know that the idea is that they believe that once everything collapses to 0 point, or if you get sucked into a black hole, there is another eternity. So you could read this as scrounge forever, or sort of like scrounge for the afterlife in a sense. 2 generic, 1 black. Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Return target's creature or spacecraft card with return target creature or spacecraft card. Sorry, that's just phrased weirdly for me. With mana value 5 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, then create a land or token. So I guess this idea is that so because we know that the I mean, I'm starting to call it an afterlife sometimes. So I'm not really sure if the models believe it to be an afterlife per se, but they believe it to be another life basically. So I guess the idea is that you sacrifice an artifact creature, and then you're sending them to the next eternity, and then because they're looking for it, I suppose. So they're trying to enter the next eternity, and then you can bring them back or some other creature back with knowledge about the next eternity, and then they create a lander token, which helps you like look for continue looking around. Like you found like some new land or some new domain of some sort. So once again, the Suma's Palatinate like okay, this doesn't look like a Palatinate. This doesn't look like a Palatinate thing. This looks like a robot with a red cape. I don't really know if this could just be a specific type of armor, but I think it's interesting that they went with like gold here, which contrasts very very strongly against the purple. Because as we know, purple and yellow, purple and gold / yellow are complementary colors. They're on opposite sides of the color wheel. This person is very interesting because they're like faces covered in shadow, so it's kind of hard to make out who they are, which I guess makes sense for this for like a spell like this because the idea is like more so the action. So the idea that maybe when you're scratching, you're doing what this person is doing and pulling whatever this is out of this thing. Again, I don't know a lot to say. A lot of purple and black because it's black line, and also like this looks kind of like what's that like Egyptian sword that's like curved? It looks kind of like some sort of Kopesh, I suppose. But it looks like the blade is like not on the inside. It looks like the blade, like the actual dangerous part's on the outside. So it's kind of like a Kopesh buzzsaw. I don't really know, but I don't have a ton to say. I don't have a ton to say. Like, this person also contrasts against this person heavily because this person's in all dark black, purple armor. This character is like more a more white and red color palette, like very like more brighter white and red. And then gold and yellow for contrast. And maybe this resembles like there's like some sort of gravity effect going on here that resembles like the Sothera like photon ring. Like if you go back to Sothera. Like if you look at Sothera, like it has like the shape around it like all the time. So it looks kind of like it's like a similar shape to that. So I guess the idea is maybe using gravity magic to contain it or something. Hard to say. Sothera the Super Void. All right. The one. So the Sothera Super Void. So do I go over this? I mean, I already talked about like a ton, but basically the monolithists, they believe that the universe will end one day, but once it collapses to like a singularity point, or if you get thrown into it like a black hole or super void, you will be sent to like the next eternity, which is like another universe or another chance at life. And where other people might say don't try to mess with the natural order of things, they think they're like, oh, we can just accelerate it so that way we can avoid death. So people often ask like why the monoliths are black line, because they might read as like green immediately, but green is all about accepting the world for as it is and not trying to like forcefully change it, like just letting natural changes occur. What the monsters are trying to do, the monsters are trying to loophole trying to loophole around death itself but they're like, if we can die in a specific way by making it happen faster, we can basically save everyone and ourselves, and we can avoid dying. So like the trolley problem is like, for example, so there's a trolley problem, right? Like it's like 5 people on one track, one person on the other track. Do you change the track to kill the one person, right? The Suma's answer is we want to save as many people as possible, so yes, change the track. The Mono answer is like we can basically like fiddle the switch like 15 times and then make the trolley like break and then fly off, and then we can glitch it so that no one dies in the future, or if they do die, it's like a loophole. I've already talked about this art before, but it's very stylized. Obviously, we have a bit of symmetry going on here with like these bits and then like these people like sitting here, and then we have like the different planets orbiting around Sister Secundii. I think each of these represents a planet. There are 5, and we know there are 5 main planets in the system. There's also that whatever that is, but I think it's less important because these are on like tracks to like track their orbit, while the others are not. And each of these seem to have like a little like color differentiation. Like I guess this would be Cav maybe because it's kind of like blown to shit, but it could also be Sister Secundii. Maybe this. Okay, this is probably Sister Secundii. and this might be a purple ring. It's hard to tell. This might be like a red ring, and this is like Cav because we know it's like half blown to shit. And Uthros because it's the most. It's like one of the farther planets, and then I don't know, like Adagia, and then maybe like Evendo over there. So here this is obviously like religious symbolism. And then we have like some sort of like almost like altar that the super void sits on top of. And then here we have these people who are almost like could be seen as a choir or maybe just an audience or religious ceremony. And it's very interesting that they have like this little halo effect, but it's not like the normal like medieval halo effect like you see on Jesus or like angels, right? It's more like a black hole photon ring accretion disk effect. There's a very interesting take on like a religious like imagery. It's like instead of like a normal halo, it's like a black hole halo. It's like the halo like around a black hole, quote unquote. Or like an accretion disk or a photon disk. Legendary enchantment, 2 generic, 2 black. So legendary enchantment. I think Mark Rosar did mention we read one of his articles about like their planning behind Edge of Eternities, and he did mention that they consider making like black holes a land type. Although I guess in this case it just represents the like so kind of being like just like the magical effect of Susur. I mean Sothera. Why did I say Susur? It represents the magical effect of Sothera. But clearly, like another thing is art conveys how the monoliths believe like everything rotates basically around like the black, like the super void. Like everything is built to be around the super void. Everything like kind of exists with this at its center. When a creature you control dies, each opponent chooses a creature they control and exiles it. At the beginning of your end step, if a player controls no creatures, sacrifice it there, then put a creature card exile with it onto the battlefield under your control. 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. So the dying and exiling obviously like connects to the idea that a black, well, one, it works with void as a mechanic, but also connects to the idea that like once you get sucked into a black hole, there's no coming back sometimes. But also it's very interesting that you would think a black hole, like it seems weird that a black hole would have the ability to bring stuff back, but I think the idea is that like from the sometimes you gotta put yourself like in the heads, like whatever faction the card is connected to. So I guess in the heads of the mono, it's basically like, once you give enough people to the super void, once you feed enough things to it, it will become a true black hole, and then it'll help accelerate people to the next eternity. So I think in this case the idea is that it becomes like a true black hole, and then also like it helps bring people another chance at life, so that, i.e. they can come back. We also know that just generally that people can get like stuck in like weird temporal shit when they're entering a black hole. So could also represent that there's like it represent being like kind of like frozen or stuck as opposed to actually being fully brought into the black hole. So there's that. Sunset Saboteur. So this is actually a very interesting card art because it kind of resembles Palatinate, obviously, but this is a Saboteur, so it's obviously a fucking spy, right? But this heavily resembles Palatinate armor, but it's still also off like just enough, so it's like you're like, huh, that's kind of weird, because like Palatinate armor is usually much brighter white, like it's like white and gold and stuff, and this is like kind of like superficially resembles Palatinate armor. Like if you saw this like maybe out of the corner of your eye, you'd be like, oh, it's a fellow Palatinate member. But then you look closer, like this is kind of off. Like there's like black and darker colors and gray, but the gloves are clearly like more like Palatinate. But obviously it's like the idea of like a spy. Like this is like a monoist spy. 1 generic, 1 black. Creature, human, rogue, menace, ward, discard a card. Whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 target creature an opponent controls. Lightstick Fools, all suns eventually set. This is very interesting. It's like a black what's it called? It's like specific Magic or the Gathering archetype where it's like group hug, I suppose. Like you help somebody else basically. Obviously if you're in a 1v1, it's just like more of like a drawback. But if you're like in Commander or something with multiple players, you could probably put this in some like weird. I don't know how many black group hug decks there are, but you could probably put this in some like weird group hug deck. Group hug deck where like you're like, hey, I'm gonna swing with this. If you don't swing with me, I'll put a +1/+1 to target on a creature. So menace obviously because it's scary. A ward, I guess the ward is like it has some sort of protection. Like I assume black hole magic or something like gravity magic. And +1. So it's very interesting. It specifically puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature and opponent controls, which is both like a black line drawback, kind of like black messing around with the idea of drawbacks, and you get to do what it takes to win. But also the idea that this is a saboteur, so the idea is like I'm pretending to be on your side, right? I'm pretending to help you so that I can swing in and do whatever. And it's very interesting that this pairs with menace, because like if your opponent has like 1 creature and you swing with this, yes, they get the +1/+1 counter, but you might be able to swing in and hit them anyway. Of course, if they have multiple creatures, it becomes a bit more complicated because you could swing in, put a +1/+1 counter on something, and then they just fucking kill it. I also love the flavor text. It's just light, like something very funny about calling people light sick fools. Light sick fools. All suns eventually set. Um, so this kind of superficially resembles Palatinate, right? If you see this, you're like, oh, this might be a Palatinate, but there's something like kind of off about it because Palatinate art is usually like very bright and a lot more white and gold, right? But here it's like there's a black hole in this guy's fucking hand, and there's like some weird like orb energy behind it, and everything's like really, really purple, and everything's so much darker tinted. And this person's armor is just off, right? I don't know if, like, if the idea is that they peeled the armor off because this part's clearly breaking off, and there's like something falling off here. So I think the idea is that like this is like their under armor, like their true like the so the idea is that like the armor is basically disguised, right? And this is the moment in the like in their most powerful where the disguise is coming off. They're revealing their true intentions, and it also acts like as an interesting bit of color coding because you can see like the darker like armor under it, like under armor, which helps like show that this is like a black line card, not like a white line card. Um, and here we have some poor sap who got their shit rocked. And here we have whatever this person, there's like some sort of gravity magic. I don't know if the idea is that they're casting the spell with this hand and then creating the effect in this hand, or that they're destroying something. It's hard to say, but a very like interesting like card, like artistically wise, like where it's like this is a spy, but something's off. Like you get there, and then this person's like like the true colors are being shown. The gravities are ripping apart like their own armor, so like they can come. So they're showing the true selves using their own magic, etc., etc. Um, and obviously you can clearly see the face. It's a moment of triumph. Like this person, even though we're not like I keep talking about height, it's like there's other ways to show moments of like power or triumph. Even though we're not like looking up at this person per se, this person has other shit rock. This person's on the ground. This person's standing tall, and their posture is just really confident. They're just super confident. You can just tell by their posture. Um, so it helps create an idea of confidence without just being one note and just using the same visual language over and over. So Syrian Dirgecraft is like a Dirgecraft like a specific thing? Like hold on. Once again, we have to ask: is that a magic word or is that an actual thing? About dirge. Element for the dead, especially one forming part of a funeral rite. A mournful song, piece of music or poem. So could be just like great, like a dead like funerals related thing. But also could be like the idea of like a mournful song because we know the monoliths are listening to the hymn of the faller. So that mournful song might be the hymn they're trying to listen to, or like the idea that they are connected to the hymn in some way. So Syrian Dirtcraft, 4 generic, 1 black, artifact spacecraft. When the spacecraft enters, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Also very interesting that it has like a potential connection to like funeral rites and stuff, and then it just kills when it enters. It kills something. So I guess the idea is like it's like call an ambulance, but not for me. Like get a funeral, but not for me. And fucking your opponent do the funeral. Station flying 4/3. So once again we see that like that weird gravity effect, like where light's being bent. I don't know if the idea is like a beam is being shot here and it's being warped around, but I think it's just light being warped because it's like a gravity effect, and we know they use it as like a protection and a weapon. Once again, we have like those weird orb things, and this almost like resembles like an eye, but I think it's more meant to resemble like the super void. The super void's like basically like a black orb with like a photon ring around it. So it would so you could stylize it and like have it resemble like sort of this, or even like just like this. And you want to know the ship is dangerous because you're looking up at the ship and you know it's dangerous because it's shooting a bunch of shit everywhere. It's also purple and black and blue. So once again, like some of the stuff, I'm kind of at a loss for words with some of like the monolith stuff, just because like the ships are just so weird, man. I don't I don't fucking know. I think it's very interesting that whatever these are, they always seem connected to like the gravity. Like the gravity effect is usually either right just outside them or like inside the ship, like show like almost like an area of influence. And the way these rings go, it's like almost like arms, but it could also like resemble sort of like the Sotheran like super void's like photon ring, which is like kind of like incomplete in a way. So so like this is like the ring, and then the gravity's like bending around it, and then we have like these little drones here, but it's just raining hellfire. There's explosions everywhere. There might be a ground here you can't even tell. It's just rocking shit. I've also noticed that I've already said this, but all the ship art has like basically full art, which I guess shows like the idea that the ships give you like a new level, like an extra level like freedom. That like to travel the universe in other ways that other people cannot. Like you can't just do it like on foot. But at the same time, they're not like planeswalker art. Like planeswalkers typically like they poke out of the frame, And I guess the idea is that they can planeswalk away, and the idea is that you have more freedom with this with the ships, but you're not like you're not going to planeswalk away from like just out of a situation like Tethered is or something. Although it does seem like the edge is different from other planes, and that you might not be able to just planeswalk in and out of it normally. So we'll see where that goes. But I do love how there's a this little control station up here. Anyway, so here we have one of the necklace vampires. We don't know if they're necklace, but I like to think they're necklace. I like to think they think it's a Batman turn. So the Susarians, I assume, based on what we know, are vampires because they mentioned Susarians as in the Planeswalkers guide as coming from Susur, like the original from Point Prime. We see vampires in the set. They're not humans, but they're all monoliths aligned. We know Susarians have like natural control over gravity, and I think they also mentioned Susarians in one of the story beats where they talk about Susarians like being in contrast to the angels. Like Susarians might be able to eat lighter energy or something. I'm not really sure about that, but so I assume that if I see a vampire in the set that's like in mono scarb, whoops, I'm assuming it's a Susarian. I don't know why it types that so slowly. Oh my god, that's why it types so slowly. I'm gonna go mad. Okay, there we go. Also, if you don't know, the keyboard I'm using has like half the numbers and letters smudged off because they're not like embedded into the keyboard. So I've been typing on it so long, it's just like some of them are just like blank like white slab, and I just have to kind of vaguely guess based on like my muscle memory of where the stuff is. Anyway, why is nutrient block here? Anyway, I think I just accidentally opened it. So we do have some Susarian lore. I guess I'll read it one more time just in case people missed it, but I'm probably not gonna read it. I'm probably not gonna read it a third time. The Monasteria is a congress of 100 elector mons who minister monos. Is the right one? Just make sure. Okay. Monos doctrine in North Star civic direction from the Fate's capital at the lip of Susur, the photon collar that rings Point Prime. The first and most holy super void of the mono is Fate. The lip of Susur is what remains of the star that birthed Point Prime. Susarians, the species that divined the first tenets of monoism and founded the faith, emerged from the lip of Susur, from the gravitationally torn carcass of that star. They're individually massive beings who lens light around themselves and are born with an inherent command over trembling gravitational threads of the annular universe. So, this card's called Susarian Voidborn, Susarian Voidborn, which is another reason why I assume the Susarians are vampires, because I assume that this person is a Susarian that is Voidborn and not a Voidborn that is Susarian. But or it could be a Voidborn that is. But you know what I mean. Like I assume that the Voidborn is not like the creature type, like the type of creature they are. I assume Susarians what kind of creature they are, or what kind of species they are. Two generic, one black. Creature, vampire, soldier. Whenever this creature or another creature or artifact you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Warp black. So I don't really know. So some of the warp. So warp represents like the weft travel, with they're faster than light travel. In the case of the Drix, represents their ability to weft walk without the need of like a spaceship. They can just do it naturally. In the case of angels, I think it represents angels being able to move at light speed. And some other creatures have warp that can just that. I think just the idea is they're on a ship or have access to some sort of ship. Since Susarians can mess with gravity, maybe the idea is they can warp space somehow. I'm not 100% sure. It could just because the idea that it could just be the idea that this Susarian has access to a ship that has warp. When this creature or another creature or artifact control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So I think that is the idea. So they are vampires. So I wouldn't be surprised if they feed on something. The idea might be that they can feed on life force or light or something like that. But it also just plays well with void, like the idea that if you want to sacrifice stuff to your Sothero super void, this creature will reward you for it. It wants you to send stuff into the void. Once again, yellow and purple are complementary colors. It's on the other side of the opposite sides of the color wheel, so it creates a nice contrast. Think of just Wario and Waluigi, who are yellow and purple respectively, mostly with secondaries like of each other's character. This is interesting because it's like this person looks like they might be getting pulled into like whatever's up here. I can't tell if this is like some sort of like Palatinate ship, but it kind of looks like maybe like some sort of gravitational effect. Like it's not quite a black hole because it could be a black hole, but these bits look like here look like little like tiles or bits of like technology or something, and not just like stuff whirling around it. But this ring looks like a photon disk or an accretion disk. So I'm not 100% sure. But this person's getting their fucking shit rocked. It looks like they're actually getting their head warped to fucking oblivion. Um, they are a Sumas Knight, or I guess Palatinate member specifically, and obviously like this person has like purple skin, sharp teeth, like the stereotypical vampire sharp teeth. If you look closely, their eyes are glowing. They're like they convey like a sense of power. I don't know if the idea is that the power is hurting them or they're being sucked somewhere else. But there is like a direct, but this person's head is clearly being warped. Like is this basically just like snapping their neck, but like spaghettifying it too? I don't know, but a lot of black and purple. Which helps like a nice because the background, if you look, is just like kind of like all yellow, which could represent maybe the presence of the Sumas, but it could of the Palatinate, but it could also just be like the idea that this bright ass like photon ring is lighting everything up, and helps create a nice contrast between like this massive like figure, like purple and black figure, and like the brighter yellows. And once again, we kind of have light. I feel like light sometimes is either intentionally or unintentionally used to represent like a sort of influence. Like this person's like magic is glowing, which makes and their light is so bright it's kind of like overwhelming this person's like kind of color palette, making it look purple. So you could read this as like this magic influence, like the magic influence is just so powerful, it's kind of like overwhelming this person and whatever magic or influence they could have. I just don't really know what that is. Is that a ship or is that just a black hole? I'm not really sure. I mean, because logically it should probably be like a black hole or something because this Susarian looks like they're being like dragged away to something. But who's to say? Swarm Caller. Three generic, one black for 4 total. Creature, insect, warrior. Flying. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, draw a card. The swarm lacked the natural predators, so the E-Minions became one. So I assume the swarm is just like not other E-Minions. I assume it's like a creature on Evendo, because if you don't know, Evendo is basically being terraformed by the E-Minions who landed there like a while ago and started terraforming the planet. So I guess the idea is whenever they catch a new life form, they might go like, we need something to deal with like this creature here, and they might genetically modify like the next batch to be able to deal with that. Most of the time, most of the E-Minions we've seen are green, but these are but clearly that's not the only color that can come in, because here we have like a purplish pink one because it's a black line one, and we actually have seen another one in the background, but this one's like the main character because this one has like the quote unquote eye, I suppose, whatever the instant equivalent is, and some sort of armor, and I like how it's like mandibles or whatever kind of like jut out, like so it can like reach, it has extra reach and like kind of pop out and grab stuff. It has wings because it has flying, and the magic loves to show things in flight to let you know as flying. You can tell this is the main focus. Everything in the background is really blurry. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on in the background. Like I think there's space up there somewhere, and maybe some sort of celestial object. You can't really tell, but it's not really that important. I think it's down here is probably ice because we know Evendo is like mostly ice at the moment, and they're kind of like working on defrosting it, and they have really only defrosted the equator. I guess the idea is that it being able to sacrifice another creature artifact is just it eating it or taking it apart, so, and giving you something in return, which is the card draw. Not a ton to say. Temporal intervention. Okay, so this is like a piece in the story where this we don't know, it's not confirmed what this thing is, this entity. It kind of seems like the VAR, because we know the VAR basically have reality warping tech. They got so advanced they had like reality warping tech, and they basically like had like what I would consider basically an internet so advanced became like its own like little dimension. So clearly the end zone's related to this end zone's related to the VAR in some way. There's still a lot of mystery though. Temporal intervention. 2 generic, 1 black. Void. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell is warped this turn, target opponent reveals their hand. You can choose a non-land card from it. That player discards a card. I will not end it will not end any other ways than this. So that's a reference. The flavor text is a reference to the story in which the Endstone basically rewrites probability to make things more likely to happen in its favor. So basically, like for example, if Sammy has like a 1% chance of surviving something, the Endstone will make sure that will basically just keep like resetting that moment until Sammy like hits that 1% chance of surviving and then wins because it fucks with probability. So the void symbol basically was making sure things would end this way. I assume in this case the reason it cares about void is because in the moment the story happens, the characters had to enter enter the weft, and then this person appeared. Then they got knocked out of it, and this person appeared. So I assume the idea is that theoretically you warp something, and then this creature appears out of the weft and on your ship and fucks with your opponent or something. Temporal intervention is very interesting as far as cards go, because usually time tends to be a blue thing, just symbolically. Not necessarily because time magic always has to be blue, but usually just like shorthand in Magic the Gathering for blue and magic or influence, and the idea of like maximizing how much time you're using, because blue cares about like knowledge through perfection. So it's the idea that you want to take as much time as possible. So you can fuck with how much time other people have or give yourself more time. But the very interesting how the intervention here is represented by the fact that it's not represented by any sort of counterspell or like a time manipulation thing, but instead by this entity taking something before you can use it. So you can look in your hand, take an online card, and prevent you from using it, which is the intervention. And here we have like everyone like going, oh shit. And it's very interesting because the way they're all reaching is they're reaching for what the stone would have been like what feels like 15 minutes ago, like not 15 minutes ago, like a couple seconds ago, and then this stone drive has already floated up into this person's like hands, and they're about to like fuck off. And obviously you have like the expansive space behind them, which gives like a very cosmic, like interesting feeling, and then like space being warped here, and here we have them all reaching and they're being stopped, and there's clearly like a relation here between like whatever's stopping them and then like whatever's making this portal, because they're like the same color. So it's like the implications like they're the same energy source or the same kind of magic. Those are very weird cups. Those are very small handles on those cups, but I guess maybe they're not. Maybe they're just meant to keep it from falling. Just that. I mean, I don't have a ton to say again here. I just like seeing all the characters in the story. They're all reaching out and from different angles and trying to stop it, but it's already too late. And then this VAR person fucking fucks off. Timeline color. 2 black. Creature Drix Warrior. Haste. You may cast this card from your graveyard using its warp ability. Pay 2 life. So this card is actually really fucking good in draft for one, because you can just keep bringing it back. But also, we know that Drix also seem to deal with like weird time shit. Like it seems like certain artifacts or Eldrazi or like just like old world VAR stuff can mix with time. So Timeline Color is a very interesting name, like implication wise. So I guess the idea is that like maybe because we know like the timelines all kind of like unite into one. I'm trying to remember the exact metaphysics. I think the consensus was like the past could be changed, but it all leads to like the same present. Like you can't really change the present within a certain way, because it like kind of like correct itself. And there's only one timeline at any given time. It's not like there's multiple timelines. So I guess the idea is that like if there's weird extra timelines or whatever, maybe this person does something with that. They're clearly like on a Vendo or something, and then they're killing like these Eumedians. For some reason, it's hard for me to know. In case you don't know, the Drix are like they have the ability to weft walk. So usually, in order to enter the weft and warp travel, you need to get like on a ship like with a big enough engine and a more powerful enough engine. You usually like go to specific stations so that way you can like land and take off, etc. The Drix can just weft walk anywhere because they can just naturally do that. And it seems, and they basically made a deal with the Pinnacle. We don't know the exact nature of the deal, but they made some sort of deal with the Pinnacle where they promised to give the Pinnacle the secret to weft travel in return for something. And it kind of seems like what that return seems to be Pinnacle manpower and also storage facilities, so they can keep all the like the weird artifacts away from like lay people who don't know what they're doing. And here we have this Drix. Very interesting that this Drix kind of like a beard, but humanoid. A lot of black and dark clothing, so it's black aligned, and then has like these bright blue blades. And there's like a very interesting path being created where like it's kind of like a path, but also like a bit of a frame where it like loops around. So like all your attention. So like if you're following from back here, you'll quickly see this, and then all your attention is brought to like this like general area, like almost like a circle's being made. Like don't get any closer. Like this guy got cut, so it's almost like, hey, don't cross this line, or it's end up like this guy. And then yeah. Tragic Trajectory. 1 black sorcery. Target creature gets -2/-2 until the end of turn. Void. That creature gets -10 and -10 end of turn until end of turn. Unless instead, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell is warped this turn. Rejoice and know we all will join you soon. So I guess this would imply that. I guess it would imply that the monoliths generally believe that if you enter a black hole or get killed a certain way, be a super void black hole, you get to the next eternity no matter what you believe in. Um, so here we have the super void, and obviously it's the like the main focus of this piece or of influence, because even though we see this person's face, everything points to the super void. This person's like body language is pointing to the super void, and we have like all these lines of stuff being dragged into the super void, and all these ripples coming out from it. Like it's like super void is like the most powerful thing in this piece. Right here is very interesting because like this guy's like mask is breaking, but like they're clearly like under like a lot of stress and strain because like their eyes red, their skin seem kind of like a sickly color. It just does not look good, look like a good time. Do we have a Kaladin in flavor? Probably not, but I'm always curious. Mark Rizzo, if you don't drop Kaladin next set, it's over. We'll get that in a second. So once again, we have like contrast between like the purple and like the gold and white a bit to help like bring out the contrast to make this person really stand out. There's also like a sort of like lens flare, which is pretty interesting because I don't know if the implications is just like we're viewing this through some sort of lens, so things bouncing off it, or it's just like light being warped, or maybe something even staring out of the void. But I think it's just like a lens flare, like I said, hitting a camera or something. And obviously the idea is that the trajectory gives you -2/-2, and if something is thrown into the void or dies or leaves, then your throw becomes a lot harder to avoid. The trajectory becomes more tragic, and it hurts them more. So is that also notice how the void has like it's purple, but there's like a bit of like just a slightest bit of red behind here, so it just sends out a bit more against like just the almost like the almost black, like pitch black, like space, just so you see it just a little bit better. And it's very interesting, like how this person's like mask is like half broken, like it's like. So one thing that people do to give a sense of like chaos or unbalance or loss of power or whatever or instability is this idea that of like symmetry in character design or posing. So if this person's mask was all the way on, it'd be symmetrical, which could give the impression of like being well balanced and like grounded. But here, like it's a trajectory, so the person is in motion, and it's kind of represented by this piece being made more dynamic by the fact that this person's helmet's half broken. Like this person is like they're not balanced, they're in motion, they're falling, they're metaphorically and literally falling. So it's represented by this fact that this mask is broken. So one side it comes off as almost heavier, quote unquote, like visually than the other side, which helps give a sense of like action. Oh shit, Kaladin. Rejoice for what all Kaladin says is fucking rejoice, bro. I need this guy. I need to see this what this person is. So that's interesting. Umbral Collar Zealot. So Umbral is like shadow or darkness, so kind of like dark Collar Zealot. I guess the collar would probably be like maybe like the Super Void or like a black hole or something. One generic, one black. Creature, human cleric. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Surveil one. Look at the top card of your library. You might put it into your graveyard. All things will fall to 0 point. By accepting this truth, my path is known. My fate is certain. So, we do, I think, have a definition of 0 point. 0 point. The destination of the follow, the center of point prime, which is reflected in every super void yet encountered. Human cleric, sacrificing the creature or artifact, surveil one. All things will. So I guess the idea is that you can sacrifice stuff by throwing into super void, and it gives you some sort of insight. This art's pretty simple. Like there's like a bit of like framing going on with like, so this building clearly symmetrical. Which once again I was just talking about symmetry as like a sense of like balance and control. So even though this person's like being dynamic in the sense that they're taking a step down some stairs, which gives them a sense of like motion and action, and the spear also gives them a sense of like battle rating action. The step behind them is like symmetrical in certain ways that gives like a sense of like structure and like intentionality. And here we see like this like bright light coming from like the middle, like it's split just where their head kind of is, which creates like this bright light effect, which helps like draw your attention behind them because like there's like this aura behind them. But the person themselves is like more like ready to fight because they have like this, their stuff is flowing. They got like this fiery weird plasma fire gravity effect, and then they have like these orbs which will probably fuck you up. And again, I think the orbs are probably meant to resemble like the spherical shape of like a black hole. And then obviously they're kind of like darker than like the blue light around them in a lot of areas, and then also like the more brownish of the stairs, which helps them stand out a bit more. And also black and purple because black and purple. Yeah. Oh yeah, so I guess accepting that all will eventually die, you can like sacrifice stuff. Like everything will die anyway, so if you sacrifice stuff, you get to see more of something. Virus beetle, one generic, one black. Artifact creature insect. When this creature enters, each opponent discards a card. The Medium biotechs were delighted when a mutated malware gene devastated their systems. They encouraged the trait so long as future clutches could be contained. So a bit of explanation about the Emedian's like adaptiveness and the idea of like you might be able to use something good to your own gain, or maybe a resource that other people would consider in black, I suppose. Um, so I guess the idea is that using the malware to fuck with your opponent now. Um, it looks kind of like weird for Emedian tech. Emedian tech usually looks kind of more organic, more green, but I guess you need to convey to black cards, so it's kind of like silvery with like a little bit of green and some sort of like juice in it. With this thing acting as sort of like an eye, and it does have like an insect feature, so I suppose you could maybe relate it based on that. And this thing is the main focus because the foreground's extremely like way darker, and the background's like more faded and like tinted by the yellow and green. I don't have a ton to say. I just like how smooth the shape is here. I guess you could like. I'm not saying these are wings, but these almost like I guess remind me of like wings folded up. I don't think they're wings. I think they're just metal. But Warforged Titan. So once again, I'm noticing a lot of dude. There's like the Palatine have like this many robots like in their cards. I feel like the war. I feel like the whoops. I feel like the Monos had more robots represented in their faction. Um, I guess the idea is because so if you read the art here, it's the Void Forge lacked the formal programming of other mecha. Instead, they are engineered to move in the course of the hymn of the immortal follower. So I guess instead of like having conventional programming, it's that this thing receives orders from presumably receives orders from the black holes and super void, and then acts based on that. I don't know how much of that is like an actual order being directly given by the follower, or it's just like the interpretation the robot is getting, or the or what the monos are getting. Four generic, one black. Artifact creature, robot warrior. Void. At the beginning of your end step, you have a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn. You draw one card and lose one life. This is pretty simple. I mean, it's a void. It's a robot that gets power from like or that gets its orders from like the super void and like black holes. So if something enters the black hole, i.e., gets sucked into the void, it rewards you. It gives you information. It learns something new. It gets a new order. So you draw something and gives you information. And you lose one life because uh black alignment, but also I imagine sometimes that's bucking with gravity is going to be painful. But here we have something like being, I don't know if it's being compressed or something being compressed or something. I don't really know, but it does resemble like the super void. It's like a orb with like a sort of like ring, like a photon ring around it. Once again, they love us doing this where it's like the edges are like darker colored or like not as bright, but then they have like the center like piece, like center area where like a bunch of light comes through, and then something sitting in front of it so that it highlights it as like from something from the back, and this is highlighting it from the front. Again, much purple and black. I don't really know what this is. I don't know if it's scanning it. I don't really know what I'm looking at right here. I don't know if that's like a thing being compressed or what. But it's clearly made out of some alabile metal, and I love how like it resembles kind of like the armor of like the armor we see on some of the other monolith stuff. But unlike that armor, it's like this is like the robot is like weird. Something like look how this armor, but look at this like this guy's armor for example. Like it clearly resembles monolith's armor, but unlike like some of the other armor, like it like the arms look weird and like the legs look weird like in ways that they wouldn't bend on a normal person. Like they wouldn't have like this bend here and then go down like a deer or something. Like this person just has like big arms, but the robot has like kind of like thinner arms in certain ways, but like bulky arms here. So it's like clearly it's like it looks like armor, but clearly it's not designed for someone to be like inside wearing it because it wouldn't make any sense and it would probably fuck you up if you tried to wear this as armor. But it's clearly like like fibers to help it move, etc., etc. Vote out. So this is funny. I'm surprised this wasn't like in one of the commander sets. It's like one of those like what's one of those like those cards like Will to Council or whatever. Like the people like vote for destroy. I don't know, but it's cute. It's convoke. So vote out 3 generic, 1 black. Convoke. Destroy target creature. Democracy is not always just. Um. So destroy target creature obviously like they're being ejected, and convoke obviously the idea is that each creature is voting on you having each creature's vote to kill that person. I think it's like one of those cards that like if you have a very basic understanding of black philosophy, you might find this like weird because like especially since like democracy might lean more towards white generally because the idea that everyone gets a say and votes for like the greater good or whatever. But I think people misunderstand that black is not saying you should be like a lone wolf philosophically, or that you should only ever care about yourself and never work with anyone else. What black believes is that you should put yourself first. So black is willing to work with other people if it gets something out of it, which is like the main idea of black. I think people have this idea that black is like, never have friends. I'm a lone wolf. I trust nobody. It's like that's not necessarily what black is saying. That can be a very black line character, but that's not like the core of like black philosophy. And we kind of see an example of that here, where it's like black is willing to work with other creatures and people if it gets something it wants or wants the job done. I also love like this like fucking skeleton finger. I like how like, all these like things are, there's like a tentacle here. I like these all like resemble different shapes. Like they're not all just like human hands. Like there's a couple hands that resemble humanoids, but this one's like more like spindly. This one's like some sort of skeleton. That's a tentacle. I don't. It's like a weird tentacle with like a hand thing at the end. And there's like a little button. It's like this person's clearly like being pressed into a corner. Like these represent like these like opposing forces, and they're surrounded. They're metaphorically and literally surrounded, and they're being pushed into this corner with like a big red button that might suck them out into the void. And here we see space in the background. And then once again, we have an example of a creature that shows that like the main creatures they talk about aren't the only creatures within the Edge or even Sothera. Like there are other creature types that we just aren't the main focus. Yeah. Zoo Ifit Osteoharmonis. So we actually do have some lore on her. We have the legends of. So I'm just gonna read a little bit of that. Maybe I should read Legends of Afriel, because I mean I wasn't reading for Afriel because I know who Afriel is. Maybe I should have read that. Zu Ifit, human, she, her. Zu Ifit is a surgeon of the Monoist faith, currently stationed at Susur Secundi. 10 years ago, Zu Ifit's wife made the plunge into Cytherian supervoid, but was caught in a sudden gravitational anomaly, leaving her frozen in place by time dilation. I gotta say, if I saw that shit happen, I would probably lose faith. But it is what it is. Zu Ifit has made it her life's mission to rescue her wife and join her on her pilgrimage into the next eternity. To achieve this, she experiments on Monoist acolytes, testing their survivability through dangerous missions before sending them to take the plunge into the Cytherian super void. With each new iteration, she grows closer to perfecting her process and developing a means to save both her wife and herself. So once again, I want to point out stress that black is not necessarily like a lone wolf, and clearly, there's like a little bit of black alignment coming here, and the fact that Zu Ifit's also doing this for herself. Like she also wants to give herself away to make sure she doesn't get stuck like her wife. So it's not completely selfless, but that's not always a bad thing. But Zu Ifit, Osteoharmonis, 1 generic, 2 black for 3 total. Legendary creature, human wizard. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a skeleton in addition to its other types and it has no abilities. Activate only as a sorcery. They will call you a monster, but I will call you worthy. So I guess the idea is that so here's like I don't think we have like any good skeleton commanders at the moment, but here's like something that's kind of like in that direction where it's like it makes skeletons. Even her hands are designed to be skeletal and like skeletal looking, which helps draw a connection between her and the skeleton. Once again, we have that height difference where like she may not be literally taller than the skeleton, but the idea is that she's towering over it, so she exerts influence over it. And I think even the light sometimes kind of represents like the influence of the character, like in this little area. There's not a whole lot going on in the background, so obviously she's the main focus. So I guess the idea is that her process is a little bit fucky wucky, so the creatures don't come back just like normal. They come back as like fucked up skeletons that are enhanced with like robotics or something. And here we have like this material being like, oh, it looks like alabile being added to this person. So I guess she might be messing with the idea of alabile being like applied to like a skeletal structure. Who's to say? And yeah, I mean, I've talked about this card before, so I might miss something I mentioned before, but obviously a lot of black and purple. We have like these little strips, which kind of help her. I probably should talk about this generally, but sometimes I feel like they add like these little strips like here on certain Monoist cards or black cards because that make the character look bigger and more imposing in certain ways. Like like this person's clearly like a person like in control who thinks they're in control, who has like maybe confidence. So not only is their pose confident, but also like these like little tassels also make them look their silhouette look bigger and bulkier, which can potentially make them look more menacing or take up more space, and thus give the implication that they have more power. So anyway, we support women's wrongs, I suppose. 0 point ballot. How much do we have? Okay, I'm not gonna go over the tokens today. I'm sorry that these like I probably logically I should be doing this probably longer streams. I go over more cards, but I have school and stuff, and I'm not sure of the mental bandwidth to like do like a 5 hour stream going through each Magic the Gathering card art, because these individually are already like 1 to 2 hours, and so. And I feel like sometimes I feel like this is gonna be sound weird, but sometimes I feel like the longer I go on, the more likely my computer is to shit itself. But 0 point ballad. X generic, 1 black. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures with toughness X or less. You lose X life if X is 6 or more. Return a creature card put into a graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. Beyond the super void, existence collapses into a singular point. We are all dead. We all live. Zoo Ifit Osteohormon. Oh shit, Zoo Ifit again. It's her. Well, I mean that's cute. Well, there's Zoo Ifit again. If you're wondering who's saying the quote, it's her. Um, so once again, we have the singular point. So it's the idea that like you might, it's like everything being reduced to like a single point. So everything's alive and dead. It's in the void. But you also get another chance at life. The 0 point I think is something that we have in the Planeswalkers guide. The 0 point is the destination of the follow, the center of point prime, which is reflected in every super void yet encountered. So yeah. So I guess the idea is like once again the monos have like a lot of music symbology, because the idea is that they're getting like these hymns and teaching some like these black holes. So I guess the idea is that they're singing the song of the 0 point of the faller. Um, so once again, it feels like the main focus is like this person is kind of like a main character of sorts, but it feels like the main focus is like the massive army. Like you see this person and you're like, oh shit, and you're like all these ships behind them, like they're leading like these ships behind them, and these people. Uh, so it seems like almost like so you look at this guy and like, oh shit, look at these numbers, all these fucking ships. Um, this like resembles kind of like a super void or just like a black hole. Like the idea of like it's like the black hole and like the accretion disk or the photon ring. Um, Once again, we have like a character with like kind of like a monosphere, like these shoulder pads or kind of like these weird like bulky parts of their armor or tassels that can make them look bigger or make them take up more space to give them the implication of more influence or power. Um, I'm thinking obviously a lot of purple, a lot of black. I love the lightning here. It's like it's almost cartoon like Saturday morning cartoon villain, like the lightning, like prepare the army and then lightning. Not that the monos are necessarily like more evil than the Palatinate and the Sumist. And I guess the idea here is like the 0 point ballad. So it's like you sing the ballad and it sucks everyone into the super void or it kills them. And then you can return your card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. So either sending them to the next, so either coming back for the next eternity or just they get stuck in some weird time dilation shit like Zoo if it's wife. Um, Hashtag Zoo if it's wife for the next Edge of Eternity set. Um, there's just a lot of purple all over this image. It's like dark purple, dark purple, dark purple, and then like a little bit blue and some bright purple for like highlights. Which I guess in a weird way is like a sense of like oneness. Like they're all on the same page. Like nobody stands out. Nobody's like a weird like, oh, I'm Palatinate, so I'm white and gold. It's like everyone's kind of like on the same like the similar color schemes. So they're all kind of like it gives like a sense of like unity of some sorts, or like they're all on the same page. Um, and this person having their hands out spread also gives like a sense of power of some sort. Um, this is one thing we see with some of the Tezzeret art is like sometimes we see like a character we see like I'm messing around like we see like the playing around with like perspective, like the idea that even though this thing is probably like a just like like a representation of something much bigger, like the idea that the idea that you could read this as basically this person like being in control or having influence over some part of like this black hole, like it's kind of like in their grasp almost. Although they're clearly just listening to the 0 point, I think. So the idea is like I have control of like the song kind of, or I can see or I can see more of the super void than like the average person because I'm not just looking directly at the giant super void. Um, I think that's it for now. I think I've been playing less like Magic the Gathering Arena after I do these because I try to get straight to the point. I don't know. I just think sometimes I just play it for too long, and I think the audience for people who want to see me play Magic the Arena is like different from people who want to just hear me read stuff for the most part. You know what though? I'll play one game of Magic. I'll play one game of Magic Arena because I'm working on my. Do I want to be evil? Do I want to use my flash deck? Do we have any dailies? Also, one thing I think someone brought up in one of like Radley's servers, like, how do you think they he him sound when they do like because like it drops like in text, but I'm like, how does that sound any different? Like when characters are audibly speaking it in universe, like do you like mono's text as a subscript pronouns he him always capitalized? Like I don't know. I always imagine like they dropped an octave, but it can also be like a Scott Pilgrim style joke where it's like, how are you doing that with your mouth? Like the fucking beep effect. Like a character, like imagine like a Magic Ant comic where like someone like does like the he him drop, and they're just like, how'd you do that? Like it's like the word bubble. Uh, do. I probably should have screened my draft that I did yesterday, but I'm not good at drafting, so I'm not sure how much people want to watch that. But if people want to watch me like try to run a 60 card decks and drafting, go for it, man. Attack with 30 creatures. Let's see. Do I just want to run? If we just want to attack, do I just want to try to run my Boros deck? We'll try to just run Boros. I mean, we should probably run Jeskai or Token Rush, probably, because that makes a bunch of tokens for us to swing in with, but. Okay, let's try not to throw too hard, huh? So we're just gonna probably play favorite hoplite and try to play into Defiant Strike maybe or something next turn. Favorite hoplite. Or maybe we just go Reckless Charge and go crazy because it won't be able to take damage. Hopefully this doesn't get bounced, but I'm gonna go Monstrous Rage. Defiant Strike. And then next turn I'll cast Illuminated Virtuoso into Reckless Charge, I think, and just catch them off guard is the plan. Okay. Illuminated Virtuoso. Reckless Charge. We already have Illuminated Virtuoso. I mean, maybe we keep the other one, but kind of weird they chose to bounce that and not wait for the Illuminated Virtuoso to because they saw that in the stack, no? I feel like you just bounced Illuminated Virtuoso, but God's willing. I think we mayhaps win. If not now, then this turn. Okay, the question is like if I cast God's willing, are they just gonna bounce it in response? Is the question, I suppose, huh? Okay, no, dead. Okay, we didn't actually see a lot of creatures, but I don't know how much of that is because we got a really good starting hand. But I think we want to run Reckless Rage. Oops. Where is my card? Or maybe we just run again. Maybe we just run it down again. We could also do that. Um, this one gets hexproof and indestructible, so. But I don't really see a reason, particularly. We just give it blue. I don't know. Maybe we just run again. If we have something, I guess maybe we cut down shut on the Scalds and then try to run anti-blue removal. Probably not the best hand, but whatever. Oh, damn. Gas spells as if they have flash. This might get bounced or something. Who knows? It does not. We play white. We Defiant Strike. Are you going to bounce this? No. No balls, you won't. Go for it. I fucking dare you, bro. I wish you would, man. I mean, it just dies. It just blocks and it dies, so I'm not sure I really care. But next time we might, if we don't draw anything good, we might need to play some Big Canyon to try to draw a card because we can sack it to draw something. All right, we're just getting. Um, we'll do it in response to something probably. I'm probably waiting too long, but oh hey, it's Bird Narset. I've never seen this card before. Well, I've never seen this version of the card. I mean, I know the fucking pain in the ass that is that prevents you from drawing cards each turn, but counter spell. I'm not sure I'm really that worried about counter spell because I'm not sure I have anything that's like worth counter spelling mostly at the moment. Just God's willing, they don't really know what I have. Oh boy, not a good hand. I should have tossed it probably. Yeah, go ahead. That's not good. We might lose this already because we're kind of running out of gas. You gonna counter that? Okay. I got cards, man. You don't got all day. Why do they have another Narset in there? It's fucked up, bro. Okay, that's something. Counterspell? Bounce? No. If we just like get like one of our card draws. I might need to cut like a couple lands from this deck. I don't know. I put some extra lands because I kept getting mana screwed. I was getting really annoyed, but that might have been impulsive. The play might have been to cut a couple lands. Yeah, we'll take shit on those calls. I probably shouldn't. It's probably better, but it'll give us card draw eventually. Oh, brother. I don't like mine. Are you gonna tap your own shit so I can't draw anything? Nope. Okay, we'll take that. It's not a bad, actually. Not bad at all. Do we keep up Sajiri Cell? Because we just reckless charge in, but actually they only have two cards. Because ideally we just reckless charge in and then trample and then go in for big money. How long can I cast this? Until the end of your next turn. Okay, well, give it to you. Because we have a Hoplite in our hand. Okay, that's too many lands. Fair enough. I do love Aetherize. It's a really underrated. It's a really good budget replacement for Cyclonic Rift, I think, because it can just save your ass. You wanna if you're like Cyclonic Rift cost too much, and I don't want to proxy for it. I recommend Aetherize as a possible alternative. Okay, so for every spell I cast, so we can probably just we might not want to play Illuminated Virtuoso because we might just be able to go wide and then try to swing. But they also might just Aetherize this again, which would be a pain in the ass. I think they had probably another thing in their hand because they didn't. They would probably have FF by now, but they're probably just gonna bounce something. Yeah, yeah. Can I cast this land turn? I don't know when I cast that, but I think it's about to go away. Play Luminary Virtuoso though. Bro is letting me have shit, bro. All right. I can't have shit in this house, dog. Let me tell you what. Okay. I don't think they have Aether because I feel like they would have done that if they did. But they could. Never say never. But I want to try getting the block with both. I just want to go crazy and then annoy the fuck out of them. We kind of want that because I'm getting really tired of getting my shit interrupted. Please don't have another Aether Rise. I'm begging. No fucking way, bro. Okay. No. Okay, it's Brazen Borrower. We're fine. We're fine with that, I think. Maybe we should have waited because I could have probably cast Egon just see the Empire and like response to one of the blockers and then save my shit, and they would have been in bigger trouble. Favorite hoplite. Favorite hoplite. Haste. Probably in their Aether Rise because they probably got 4 in their deck. So no Fading Hope. Yippee. God damn it, bro. Okay, well, now they definitely got something. At least they have Defiant Strike now, I suppose. There's no way you can get like a bounce or something. Yeah. Oh, sweet. That's fucking annoying. For them, I mean, I'm happy, but I think we might be able to win this just by virtue of the fact that we just cast so many spells. We can just cast like 4 favorite hoplites each turn, and they're just gonna have to deal with it. Do we cast Monastery Swift Spear now, or just try to haste or whatever? We'll cast it now. They're running mono blue. They don't got destruction. The problem is the Aether Rise mostly because I just need to wait around the Aether Rise. I don't have because even if I added my removal, it's like it doesn't stop Aether Rise, but I'm just hoping to get some value out of a Dreadhorde Arcanist if I swing. But I mean, maybe I shouldn't because that kind of sends it to exile. I think I'm doing this because I think they definitely have an Aether Rise in their hand. Like, come on, bro. I guess. I don't know. Yep. At least it doesn't go to exile. Oh. Let's keep countering. This madness. Cycle. Maybe I should. Do I have anything that destroys artifacts? Actually, I think it's mainly the Howling Mine. It was fine at first, but now they just keep drawing answers. Okay. I'm actually not mad at it. Oh, never mind. I am mad at this. I forgot about Narset. Should see what we draw first. But I'm just gonna do this now. Oh fuck! Fucking Narset, bro. Okay. We should have waited on that. We should have waited till their turn, then try to draw a card. Hmm. I think we just need to figure out a way. I think we just need to have something destroy enchantments and artifacts. Sacrifice this land, draw a card. We just kind of have to do this because they're about to make us wheel our hand anyway. Okay. Yeah, we ain't got shit, bro. Not an ape, but I think we concede here and we just try to figure out a way. We have to put something in that can kill. I can kill the Land of Anticipation and the Howling Mine. Probably Aetherize. Fading Hope. Okay, we're gonna see what we can put together because I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm not feeling that one. We could actually run this because if they want a wheel and we put all their shit into the graveyard, it doesn't matter. They can't get it back. I think we gotta put Rest in Peace. I think it's the. How many lands we got? 22. We're already low on lands. I don't know why I kept showing me so many lands that turn. Okay. Double Rest in Peace. I kind of like Showdown the Scalds because maybe put it in Dread Horde back or Cricket's back. I think we just want to go fast. I think it's all or nothing. I think we go fast. I think we cut the Scalds and we just try to kick their ass before they can do anything. Okay, Hoplite. I'm just gonna play Hoplite into Luminary Virtuoso next turn. If they bounce something, then maybe we should have run the Banish Evil too, because might have been helpful to kill that. Keeping God's Willing up. Maybe we'll kill him even before they can put down our set, which is like turn 3, but no, never mind. Okay, this is kind of big because we can. They might just bounce something. We can at least make it a pain in the ass for them to do anything, right? Because we can do this into this. Now they have to make a choice. Yeah. If they put down our set, we might just have to ignore it and just try to go in and try to do as much damage as possible. But if they do cast our set, we just Sacred Foundry, Reckless Charge onto favorite Hoplite? Okay. God's Willing, it's great. Love that shit, bro. Okay, but the only problem is they have 4 mana and they can probably Aetherize now, so that's gonna be a pain. Yuppers. We'll take that. I'm gonna say Monastery, so pretty much trying to haste it in next turn to try to catch Mob card. Wait, now the pain in the ass is not in our set. I think it's gonna be Aetherize because they can just keep bouncing my shit, and they're kind of we're almost one away from just kicking their face in. So okay, that should stop whatever weird shit they try to pull with wheeling. I should not have probably done that, but we might get bounced here. I don't know. Maybe we just keep this up and then try to kill next turn. If we give it a blue, that brings it up to 4. Yeah, and then set trade. TP on my hand, maybe. Might get countered, but yeah, I think they try. Okay, so the reason I put Rest in Peace is because I knew they tried to wheel some shit and they couldn't wheel anything in the graveyard, so they just keep going, and then one of us would deck out probably, and that probably ruined their plan. But sweet. But anyway, I'm gonna probably hop off and then play Valorant or something. Um, I will see you guys later. That is the end for me. If you have any suggestions about what we want to see next time, leave a comment or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out my stream schedule. If streaming is even something I even want to take seriously, because I do have a lot of art and stuff I want to do too. But we'll see. I'll see you guys.